For every dollar, you deserve a machine that does the same.
You know, in today's SUV crazy world, it seems nutty to introduce an all-new sedan for 2021, but that's exactly what Kia is doing with these two vehicles right behind me. Meet the all-new replacement for the Kia Optima. These are the 2021 Kia K5. I know it has a completely new name, it has a completely new platform, and it has a completely new look. And as you can see, the red one over here on my left is the Kia K5 GT line. It starts at around $26,000. This one here stickers for around $28,000, and the blue one right behind me is the Kia K5 EX. This one here stickers for around $32,000 fully loaded. So in today's video, I'm going to go over all the differences between the GT line and the EX, and we're going to find out which one of these two sedan trim lines is actually the better buy. Now, normally I would be at a media drive showing you guys the all-new 2021 Kia K5. However, because of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, Kia has actually sent me these two vehicles for just 24 hours to do a video. So I'm actually going to do two videos. This video is just going to be showing you the differences between the EX and the GT line. Keep in mind, neither one of these is the full-fledged GT model. That'll be available in November of this year. So stay tuned for a full review on that car. That's the one that has the turbocharged 2.5-liter engine with almost 300 horsepower. These are the more modestly powered 1.6-liter turbo models with around 180 horsepower. So let's go over all the differences between this GT line and, of course, the higher trim EX line. Now, as you can see, the design of the K5, this is my first time seeing the cars in person, and they already are on sale at your local Kia dealerships right now. They start at around $23,500. The GT line is painted in passion red, while the EX trim is in sapphire blue. Both of these cars are stunning looking. I have to admit, Kia has done a fantastic job with the design of a lot of their most recent vehicles, and the K5 is definitely no exception. I can't decide between the two which one I actually prefer the front fascia looks. You can see, let's start with the GT line. This is one notch below the EX in terms of the trim line hierarchy. You can see the grille is slightly more unique. You have what Kia calls a shark skin-like design to the actual grille design. You can see the grille has a different look in the actual insert. You do have full LED headlights. These are the projector style LEDs that you get. Standard, but the grille has a slightly different texture design to it. These are still the same corporate Kia Tiger nose grille, although the grille has definitely gotten larger over the years. The one thing I want you guys to notice in the lower fascia, the GT line and the EX have their own unique lower rear or lower front fascia. The biggest difference I'm noticing, obviously, the GT line actually has LED fog lights there in the lower front fascia and a little bit more black accents, a little bit more of an aggressive grille opening, although those openings are not functional. Moving over to the EX, you can see they take away the fog lights. Instead, you have those vents over there. You have the same radar cruise control, of course, for the adaptive cruise control, and slightly less black plastic trim. So overall, let me know in the comments below which trim line you think looks better, the GT line or, of course, the EX trim level. I'm pretty torn, although I do like the fog lights that you get on the GT line. Now, at the side profile, you can see the wheels are also slightly different between the two models. They both have two 35/45 series 18-inch tire. They're both the same 5-spoke design. They both have Pro LAP 0 all-season tires, but on the EX, you can see you get a gray finish. On the GT line, you get a black finish, so it's just a matter of whether you prefer a gray finish or a black finish. The wheels are practically identical. They both also have panoramic sunroofs. They're part of an option package on the GT line that's $1,400, while on the EX, the panoramic sunroof does come standard. They both have the signature Kia Optima styling elements where you have this chrome line that goes all the way down the actual roof line of the vehicle, and it actually extends now into the rear trunk lid, which is a really interesting design feature. I like how both of these cars have a black colored roof because of the panoramic sunroof, which is nice. It gives it some nice character. Now at the rear, you can see the design is pretty much the same. I think this is one of the better angles of the new K5 in terms of the design. You have an LED combination rear taillight that you get as standard on the GT line. It's optional on the EX. You have to go for the $3,400 premium package to get the LED combination rear taillights, where the taillight itself here is LED, but those turn signals are incandescent. You can see the EX has an EX badge. Over on the GT line, you can see there is a subtle little black rear deck lid spoiler that you get on this model, and of course the GT line badge. The rear lower bumper, both of them have a little bumper trim that kind of simulates a dual exhaust. Same thing on the EX trim. However, the GT line adds a little bit more chrome and silver and a little bit different look to the rear fascia, along with these bigger fake vents that you get on the side, which I don't particularly love. On the EX, they're slightly more subtle. It's just a little bit of a black accent piece. So let me know in the comments below which front and rear design you prefer, whether you go for the EX or you go for the GT line. You can't deny just how handsome both of these two sedans are. So the exterior differences between the two trim lines are pretty subtle, but let's get into the interior because this is where the meat and the bones are going to be between the two trim lines. You're going to want to choose the EX if you want more premium touches. However, the GT line is also pretty well equipped. As you can see, I am first starting out in the GT line. It only comes with this interior color combination, which is a combination kind of a cloth with a leatherette material. I think Kia calls it Sofino. When you get inside the cabin of...
Out here, you're truly in your element, where you grab hold and let nothing stand in your way.
Of the new K5, you can see if you guys have been inside some recent Kia products, this is going to feel pretty familiar. It's a really nice place to spend time. Getting inside and shutting the door, it has a nice solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is an all new platform. And then starting the vehicle up, the push button start that you see in this car is standard when you guys go for the LXS trim and up. Now, as you can see, the GT line comes with the smaller 8-inch touchscreen UVO infotainment system. This is the first Kia product to introduce wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is nice. As you can see, my phone is right here. I'm just going to insert it here on the wireless phone charger down here, and it automatically connects to the infotainment system, which is very nice. It was very seamless, very easy to set up. However, you can tell that Kia offers a larger 10.25-inch display in the EX trim, which is part of an option. I highly recommend that if you guys prefer the larger screen where there's less black plastic bezel over here. Now, in terms of the materials, you can see the K5 definitely has some nice interior materials. You can see there's a soft touch injection molded plastic here with some of that stitching there. The stitching is a faux stitching. You have this metal look trim here, which tries to imitate carbon fiber. The glove compartment, or this lower part of the dash here, is hard touch plastic. The glove compartment door is hard touch plastic. This right here is also a hard touch plastic, but it is a soft touch material here on the upper door panels, more of that silver carbon fiber look trim. This is actually a hard touch plastic on this part here with that faux stitching, but it's nice and padded here with leatherette. The windows are one touch automatic for both fronts, but not for the rear windows. You have these nice window switches here that feel pretty high quality. More buttons over here for your active lane keep assist, your stability control off switch. It's all hard touch plastic over here. My Tesla just has the standard 6-speaker stereo system, which sounds okay, but again, we'll hop into the EX. We'll show you guys that in just a moment. This GT line also has this nice flat bottom steering wheel. This is essentially the same steering wheel that you'll get on the full-fledged GT model. It'll just kind of say GT instead of GT line. The steering wheel itself, as you can see, is tilt and telescoping. It offers a lot of adjustability, which is nice. I see some new turn signal stocks over here. Some of the controls have been updated. You have fog lights, like I said, on the GT line, but not on the EX. The one thing I'm interestingly annoyed with, or the one thing I'm annoyed with in general, is the fact that Kia doesn't offer a full digital LCD display on this car. The Sonata, the sister vehicle to this car, does, but Kia for some reason doesn't do that. It's kind of similar to the way that the Telluride and the Palisade is. But this screen here, you can see there's a teeny tiny 3.5-inch helper screen that shows you some decent graphics. It just looks rather old school in 2020. So I hope Kia eventually rectifies that and offers more, a larger full digital display over here, which would be nice. The 8-inch touchscreen here, as you can see, CarPlay works fairly nicely. This is the home display here. There's no embedded GPS in this car. So basically you'll just use the regular, radio in this car. Satellite radio is not available on the GT line, which is a little bit annoying, or you'll just pretty much hit phone here and just go to your, the Apple CarPlay, which is again pretty nice. When you put the car into reverse, Kia gives you a pretty traditional backup camera. It has trajectory. No parking sensors, I believe, on this model, however, but you do have a pretty good resolution quality screen, which is of course nice. No full 360 camera is available. The EX model also, this one here comes with blind spot monitoring or rear cross traffic alert. However, the adaptive cruise control is optional. It's part of that premium package that my GT line tester also includes. Now you can see here dual zone climate control, which is nice. You have a nice little area here where you can put your phone, 2 USB ports over there. This controls the 8-speed automatic, which, by the way, if you guys are looking for a driving impressions part, be sure to stay tuned for my second video, which I'll be including a link in the description below, which will take these vehicles out on the road and we'll see how they drive. This, of course, only has 180 horsepower. There's an electronic parking brake there, an auto hold feature, and then there's a drive mode selector. You can cycle between sport, normal, smart, and then a custom mode. So this is all fairly nice stuff. There, as you can see, there's a lot of empty real estate here, which I'll show you guys what it looks like in the EX trim when we get to there. There's also a wireless phone charger over there. As I said, good storage over here. The seats, as you can see on the GT line, they are rather comfortable. I like the Sofino fake leather with the cloth inserts over here. This seat here is a 6-way manual adjustment, and then my seat here, you get an 8-way power, which is nice, but no memory seats. I'll talk about the differences there, of course, later on in the EX. No heated seats as well in the EX trim, which would be nice. You do get heated and ventilated seats when you go for the EX trim. I'm sorry, the GT line doesn't offer heated seats. The glove compartment here you can see is a pretty decent size. It's damped, but it's not lined with felt. And then part of the $14 premium package is this really nice panoramic sunroof, which, as you can see, opens up and lets in a lot of light, which is good because this is a pretty dark cabin, but that's the largest that the sunroof opens, so kind of keep that in mind. This is a pretty nice feature, of course, but as you can see, the GT line is a little sparse when it comes to, you know, the full all-out tech. But let's hop into the EX trim and let's take a look at all the differences. So now, as you can see, I've stepped into the EX trim level, which is the highest trim that you can buy for now, because the GT, the actual GT, won't be available, of course, until November of this year. Initial impressions, it definitely feels a step above the GT line, which is the one I just got out of, especially when you look at the interior finishings in here. You can see the steering wheel is slightly different. You don't get the flat bottom design, but the leather just feels a little bit higher quality on the wheel. You get some fake wood grain trim. When you come over here and shut the door, it has the same solid sounding thunk, which of course I expected that. Starting the vehicle up, push button start, of course, is included on this higher trim level. And as you can see, voila, there's the larger 10.25-inch tablet style screen. This looks very nice. I like the fact that Kia has gotten rid of that black plastic, of course, in the 8-inch screen, and they've replaced it with touch sensitive buttons here. You still get a volume knob, of course. This is very different than any other Kia that I've seen. This is their latest Uvo infotainment system. This is the way the home screen looks, which is pretty interesting. I actually didn't think the screen was actually on. If you push that side over there, you can see there's the GPS that you get, the factory embedded GPS, which looks great. Kia has made some updates to it over the years, which all looks nice. As you can see, it also includes Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and you can also give the ability to give this entire full screen like I have it set up here, or you can also do a split screen where it will cut this off here, and then it'll give you a nice like audio or weather or GPS information over there. I prefer the cleaner look of the full screen style, which looks nice. This looks like an upgrade. However, the biggest issue that I have with the 10.25-inch display is, look at this, guys. I have to actually plug in my phone here via a wired connection to get the CarPlay. The wireless CarPlay that's in the GT line in the smaller 8-inch screen is not included when you guys go for the 10.25-inch screen. So I don't like how Kia has to force you to make that compromise. I would like them to eventually include wireless CarPlay in the bigger screen. So that's something to keep in mind. At least it still has CarPlay, of course, but you do have to plug your phone in with a wire, which for those of you who've had wireless CarPlay, you're gonna find that to be a little bit of an annoying feature. Now, in terms of the materials, you can see it's the same material on the dash here for the EX, although you can see that aluminum carbon fiber trim has been replaced with this fake wood, although I will say the wood looks rather convincingly real. It even feels surprisingly real, which is nice. You have some more silver painted accents. The vents look the same. This has actually now been upgraded to a soft touch injection molded plastic, which is nice. Soft touch here, and still hard touch plastic over the instrument panel hood, but also a hard touch plastic over there. The door panels are also soft touch. This has also been updated right here. You have real Sofino leather covering the parts of the door panel here, which is nice. A padded area over here, more piano black accents and trim, or as you can see on the EX, you have auto up-down windows for the front, but not for the rear. So I was hoping Kia would upgrade that, of course, with the EX trim level, but that's not the case. The 12-speaker Bose audio system in this car sounds pretty good. It reminds me a lot of the one that I found in the new Sonata, which is great. You got 2-person memory seats. The driver's seat over here is a 10-way power adjustment, and then you have an 8-way power adjustment for the passenger side. So remember, this is a power adjustment versus the manual adjustment in the GT line, which is of course really nice. The LED lighting is included in this car as well, compared to the GT line, which is nice. The glove compartment you can see here is damped but not lined with felt, and then you also still get this panoramic sunroof, but the pano sunroof is standard on the EX trim. So again, this trim level is going to cost you about $3,000 more. It includes that as standard equipment. Now when I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see it gives me a backup camera, but it also includes parking sensors. 360 camera is not available for some reason on this car, which is interesting because the Sonata offers that, and the Sonata offers that Smart Park feature, which Kia does not offer that on the K5, so you have to keep that in mind, of course. The Kia offers other features versus what the Sonata is going to have. It's kind of some of the key differentiating factors. This interface is all very strange to me because I do like the way it looks. You can see there's like a sounds of nature here, just like you get in the Sonata, where you can kind of play this music on your way home from work, and it's supposed to help calm you. I probably would really like the calm sea waves. This would be a really great place to unwind, especially if you're stuck in traffic all the time. The Bose audio, as you can see, sounds really good. This is of course the infotainment system, where you go to the radio settings over here. I want to show you guys this because, as you can see, this looks completely different versus all the other Kia products. It almost looks like there's like a light bulb right there, the design to it, to show which channel station you're on. As you can see, I've got satellite radio in the EX trim, which is why I prefer it. Your presets are down here. I actually really like the updated graphics. It just kind of threw me off because I've never seen this in any other Kia products. So let me know what you guys think of the updated graphics. I think it looks pretty nice. The steering wheel, as you can see, tilt and telescoping just like the EX. I actually don't mind that it's not a flat bottom design for the wheel because it's got higher quality leather on the steering wheel. This feels like the same leather I'd find in like a luxury car, which is nice. Down here you can see phone storage area, cup holders. This controls the 8-speed auto. This is all the same. You still have all these empty buttons over here. But as you can see, Kia has added cooled or ventilated and heated seats, which is very nice. It's standard on the EX. You have the same drive mode selector. You can see the screen definitely shows you a nicer display of what you're actually changing the drive mode to. So it's all very nice. You also get a heated steering wheel, which is included on this trim. And the cooled seats, by the way, work really well. In the 90-degree heat that I'm experiencing today, the cooled seats work very well. Same storage over here, of course, for wireless phone charger. You can actually pull this out right here, and you can kind of clean up that area if you'd like, although this plastic feels a little bit cheap and flimsy. The seats, I find them to be softer and more supportive on the EX trim, so keep that in mind if you guys are deciding between the two trims. You're going to want to try out the seats. I think the seats in the EX are slightly nicer. So overall, I think the EX includes a lot of nice features that I wish the GT line offered, but really they're so similar in terms of price, in terms of looks. It's just going to come down to which one you stylistically prefer more. So as you can see, trying to decide between the K5 EX and the GT line is really just going to come down to what's more important to you. Do you prefer something that's about $3,000 cheaper, that has a sportier look, but you don't really need all of the latest in terms of tech or the largest screen? You're going to want the GT line because that one starts at around $25,390. Add $1,400 for the premium package, which includes things like the projector LED headlights, the panoramic sunroof, the driver assist systems that one has, and you're looking at around $28,600 for that car, including destination, which is a good deal. That passion red paint is also additional $445. Now the EX trim is about $2,500 more. This car starts at around $28,000. My tester with the $3,400 premium package, which rolls in the larger screen, the Bose audio system, the driver assistance package, that's one's going to cost you around $32,000 fully loaded, which is again a screaming deal. This car, if you compare it to its sister vehicle, the Sonata, is actually a little bit less expensive by $100. So it's really going to come down to which one you prefer stylistically. If you guys are looking for driving impressions, stay tuned because this video, I just wanted to compare the EX and the GT line. I'll be uploading a second video that I'll be posting in the next day or so, where I'm going to take the EX out for a drive and the GT line out for a drive, and we're going to compare the two and see if the K5 is really worth the time and effort that Kia has put, because as you guys know, everybody is buying SUVs nowadays, and a new sedan is rather unheard of, although sedans are definitely still here to stay, and I really like the overall design of the K5. So let me know in the comment section below if you guys would probably buy the EX or the GT line. I think for a little bit more, you may as well spring for the EX because it gives you all the additional features that you're probably looking for not that much more money. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video comparing the two trim lines together. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.
Without a college degree, I was just fighting an uphill battle. I found Google's IT support program.
Over the last 20 plus years, the Optima has carried the Kia torch as the mid-size family sedan of choice within the Kia lineup. However, as buyers continue to gravitate toward SUVs, the company was forced to completely redesign the Optima. And by the way, the Optima name is now dead. These two vehicles that I have beside me are the new 2021 Kia K5. They ride on an all-new platform. They're offered in two different powertrains, and Kia says they've infused a lot of their Stinger DNA in these two new K5 sedans. So the big question I want answered, has the all-new 2021 Kia K5 been optimized for the American market? That's what we're here to find out. All right, so that intro may have been a little bit cheesy, but come on, the name K5 just isn't quite as memorable as the old Optima name. So I'm a little confused as to why Kia decided to rename this car the K5. Now, as you can see, with a car like the K5, you're gonna have to infuse it with styling to give it some personality, and Kia certainly did that for this all-new sedan. You can see the styling of this particular one, the EX that I'm showing you here, has a very distinctive look. Remember, this is riding on the N3 platform, the same one that underpins the all-new Hyundai Sonata. The grille, as you can see, this is Kia's Tiger Nose corporate grille. It has been enlarged. You can see it now extends underneath the headlights. The GT line has its own unique shark skin style grille insert, whereas the EX that I'm showing you here is slightly less aggressive. There's also these black painted lower air intakes, which some of them are real, some of them are fake. The GT line has a slightly more aggressive look. The EX, as you can see, does not have fog lights, while the GT line does. Full LED headlights are standard. This one here has a projector style LEDs, and as you can see, I like how Kia is going to an amber illuminated daytime running light. I think it's a really unique feature. The Telluride SX is also another vehicle that includes that. The lower trim lines of the K5 will have just a reflector style LED versus these more upscale projector style LEDs. Now, of course, with a car that looks this good, you're probably wondering what's going on underneath the hood. Now, unfortunately, I was hoping to show you guys a full-on GT version. That's the one that has the new 2.5-liter turbocharged four-cylinder with nearly 300 horsepower. The GT line, unfortunately, has the same engine that's in the Optima EX, which I'll show you guys later on in the test drive. It's a 1.6-liter turbocharged four-cylinder with gasoline direct injection. This is the upgraded engine that you find in the Sonata. The 2.5 naturally aspirated engine in the Sonata is not available on the K5. Now here in this vehicle, it makes 180 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. The torque number is good. The horsepower number is slightly lower than some of the competition. It all goes out through an 8-speed torque converter automatic transmission, so no dual clutch, no manual transmission. Kia will offer a dual clutch, an 8-speed wet dual clutch on the 2.5 GT, but that'll be for a different review. That car goes on sale in November of this year. Now, front-wheel drive will be standard, and unlike the Sonata, Kia will offer the K5 with all-wheel drive, which you can get on the LXS and this GT line trim. This one here that I'm showing you, however, is just front-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive will be coming at a later date later on this year. Now, fuel economy is pretty good. This one's rated at 27 in the city, 37 on the highway. You can put regular gas on it, and as this one sits, it weighs just a tick over 3,300 pounds. Now, going into the side profile of these two vehicles, you can see they are riding on a new platform, like I said, and I have to say, they do have a very nice look to it. This GT line here, the red one, has its own unique set of wheels, although if you look at the wheels next to the EX, it's just a different color. You can see the GT line's wheels are black. These are a gray finish. They're an 18-inch wheel wrapped in 235 series tires. Because this is a new platform, the K5 is larger than the old Optima by about 2 inches. At 193 inches long overall, it's 2 inches longer. Its wheelbase has been stretched by about 1.8 inches at around 111 inches long, and the new K5 is about an inch wider and an inch lower. So again, Kia's trying to give it more of like a coupe, sportier stance, kind of giving it that Stinger DNA, which I think really works well. I especially like the panoramic sunroof that you get on both of these. It's an option on the GT line, standard on the EX over here. It kind of gives it, again, that black roof effect, where if you guys got this in the right color, it really creates a nice look to it. Just like the old Optima, you have this chrome piece here that kind of extends from the actual upper part of the window trim, and now it kind of goes all the way around the trunk lid, which is a really unique styling feature. I think Kia did a really good job. Now back here, if you look at the rear styling of the K5, you can see it's equally distinctive as the front. I can't decide whether I like the front or the rear design more. The GT line comes standard with an LED combination rear taillight, so you can see it's got these full-length LEDs that connect the two taillight modules together. However, the turn signal and the reverse light is just an incandescent. The tag lights, as you can see, is an incandescent. And underneath here, the GT line has a slightly more aggressive looking rear fascia where you have a little bit of a silver accent. You've got these fake looking chrome exhaust pieces here which try to look like a dual exhaust, but if you look underneath here, it's actually just a single exhaust, which is found on the right side of the vehicle. The GT, the real GT, apparently will have a quad outlet exhaust, so that's going to give it more of that aggressive look. Now in terms of the trunk capacity, Kia has a little release back here to open up the trunk, and it has a pretty good amount of cargo space. You're looking at around 16 cubic feet. The seats fold down in a 60-40 manner. Unfortunately, you do have hinges that crush your cargo, but it is a very usable trunk.
I'm so sorry.
Now in the back seat of the K5, just like the Sonata on which this is based, you have around 35.5 inches of legroom, which by the numbers, the legroom in here is not great. Most of the competitors have closer to 40 inches. However, in the real world, as you can see, with the panoramic sunroof, I'm 5'7", there's actually a pretty good amount of space. There's more than what you're gonna find in something like the, Nissan Sentra or the Honda Civic, for example. The floor is not completely flat back here, but this EX trim gives you rear seat air vents, which is nice. You have 2 map pockets, and the materials back here are hard touch plastic. So unlike the front seats, which have the upgraded soft touch materials everywhere, the back seats have been slightly downgraded. You can see there are cup holders back here, no additional storage. As I mentioned, the seats fold down in a 60-40 manner. Now, if you guys are looking for an in-depth overview of the interior of both of these vehicles, be sure to watch our first video, which I'll include a link in the description below. I just wanted to show you guys the back seat here, but the rear seat of both of these cars are pretty usable, but they're not the largest in the class. So originally I had planned to do 2 separate driving clips with the GT line and the EX. However, I drove the 2 cars back to back and I noticed that they drive exactly the same because the GT line technically does not have any updates to the suspension, to the powertrain. That is of course going to be saved for the full-fledged GT model. So to save ourselves some time and not have me talk about redundant things, I am in the EX trim level, which in my first video, if you guys haven't seen that, be sure to click on the link in the description below. I prefer the EX trim for the extra features it gives you for like an extra $3,000, and it drives exactly like the GT line. It's all gonna come down to aesthetically how you guys think you prefer these things. Now, of course, if you've driven the new 2020 Sonata, driving the new 2021 K5 is going to be pretty familiar. I'm gonna actually switch the drive mode over here to smart mode to start out the drive mode. It was in sport earlier, but let's start out in smart mode, which is this car's kind of intelligent mode. It's an adaptive mode. The K5 makes a really great first impression. It's got an excellent ride quality. Even with these big 18-inch wheels on 235 rubber, it rides very smoothly. The steering in this car is also surprisingly quick and good. You actually have a pretty good amount of feedback coming in through the wheel as well. The visibility in here is also excellent. I've got a nice view out of the front. The hood doesn't have too many bulges or creases to confuse you. The view out of the back is also really nice. Despite the sloping, roof design of this thing, the side mirrors are large. The one thing that I wish Kia would make standard is adaptive cruise control and whatnot. It is optional even on this trim. You have to go for that premium package. You do get their DriveWise package, which includes automatic emergency braking. You get lane keep assist, lane departure alert. All that stuff is standard, but if you want blind spot monitoring, you do have to step up to the higher trims like the LXS. It's standard on this EX trim, which includes blind spot monitoring with a cross traffic alert. And Kia did include some things like their latest adaptive cruise control with like a curve control that uses the navigation system to better keep you centered in the lane. It'll predict lanes that curve, or the road that curves around the bend a little bit more, and it'll help keep you centered in that lane. So of course that's all next generation stuff. That's all showing that Kia continues to improve, continues to make their vehicles more technologically advanced. Now of course the GT line and this EX comes standard with a 1.6 liter turbo. That's the upgraded engine, the Sonata, and in this car it's the standard motor. It offers up 100 180 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. Front-wheel drive is standard. The one that I'm driving is front-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is optional on the LXS and GT line. Now, of course, neither of the ones I have here are all-wheel drive because those will be a late availability. This is also something different versus the Sonata, where Hyundai doesn't offer all-wheel drive on the Sonata at all, but they do offer that Smart Park feature. Now, I want to try another acceleration run here. The front tires were slipping a bit. I'm going to turn off the traction control because it was kind of limiting the power there. So I'm going to put my foot down here before the range starts, see how it does. And it definitely feels like it gets to 60 in, I want to say, around 7.8 seconds, just over 7.5 seconds. It's a rather good base engine. I like this powertrain in the Sonata. I like the smooth shifting 8-speed, although I am noticing that the transmission short shifts rather annoyingly at around 5,800 RPM. So even if I, put my foot all the way to the floor, it does not shift at the 6,500 RPM red line. And I'm assuming it does that because this engine probably has a pretty sharp power tapering off at that point. I mean, it's an engine that's designed to give you strong mid-range performance. So of course that's going to be something that most people in this segment really value. The steering in sport mode and in smart mode, for the most part, feels the same. Maybe in sport it gets a little more heavy. The suspension doesn't change. This doesn't have adaptive dampers or whatnot. This car also doesn't offer automatic windshield wipers, rain sensing windshield wipers, which I wouldn't have noticed that if it wasn't being raining outside right now, where I have to leave it on intermediate or interval and then have to keep constantly telling it to do a single wipe. But it would be nice to offer that feature. I don't remember if the new Sonata offers rain sensing windshield wipers, but something to keep in mind. I'm just genuinely impressed with how refined this car is. I mean, the old Optima was also a pretty nice driving car, although its powertrains didn't feel quite up to the same snuff as its competitors. This, for a base engine, is perfectly fine, but it gets me very excited, of course, for the GT, the real GT, but also keep in mind the GT does not offer all-wheel drive. That only comes with front-wheel drive, but it has an 8-speed wet dual-clutch transmission, which is an industry first in this segment. Nobody else offers a dual-clutch, so I think that's a pretty cool feature to offer.
You love the outdoors. And now you can take your passion even further. Introducing the all-new Sportsman 450 HO and Sportsman 570. Plenty of storage for gear. True on-demand all-wheel drive for every kind of terrain. And the ride and handling to stay comfortable all day. Grab hold of the smoothest, strongest, most versatile ATV out there for just $5 a day. Polaris. Think outside.
Need a freelancer? Go to Fiverr.com and find one in seconds. Or don't go to Fiverr and waste your time searching for freelancers instead of finally
Again, it's short shifting at 5,800, but she's got really good passing power, as you can see. The engine doesn't sound all that pleasant. It definitely has a rather raspy tone to it, which I don't love. Most people probably won't be pushing it as hard as I'm pushing it, but for demonstration purposes, I just wanted to show you guys the way it shifts, the way it sounds, the way it feels. Adequate acceleration, good for most people for a family car, a commuter car, but the engine could be more refined. This engine itself, of course, is an updated 1.6 with their continuous variable valve duration, which is what Kia says in industry first. Now, in terms of the rest of the handling abilities, I cannot wait to drive the GT because this chassis feels very stiff. The steering it talks to you. The suspension feels good. Everything about this car just feels like it's built to a higher quality standard. Kia's really killing it nowadays. I'm finding it hard to find faults with this car aside from just the rather buzzy engine, which you typically find in this segment, and be happy that it's not a CVT. If you bought a Honda Accord, it has a CVT, a Nissan Altima has a CVT, a Legacy has a CVT. This and the Camry and the Mazda 6 are one of the few, and the Hyundai Sonata that offer a traditional stepped automatic, and of course a dual clutch if you guys go for the higher performance versions. Now, fuel economy, I only have this car literally for not long, but in my short one day that I had this thing, the trip computer says that I'm averaging around 28 miles to the gallon, which is not bad in this thing, actually. I will eventually get one to test for a longer period where I'll redo the test. It's rated at 27 city, 37 on the highway on regular grade gas. So pretty competitive MPG figures. I imagine it's probably going to be able to do close to 40 MPG on the highway. Unfortunately, with such a short loan and the rain that's coming in, I wasn't able to do a complete fuel economy test in this thing because of all the traffic, and there's a tropical storm coming through the DC area. But regardless, I'm just genuinely impressed with this car. I like the K5 more than the Sonata. I just prefer the styling of this car. The Sonata is still a very nice vehicle. You have essentially the same tech, but Hyundai gives you a little bit more. But then Kia offers all-wheel drive, which you can't get on the Sonata. So it's honestly just going to come down to which stylistically you prefer more, the Hyundai or the Kia. Both of these sedans are just really good. Offer plenty of passing power, comfortable seats, a good ride quality, plenty of room on the inside, and really they just get you excited because everybody's driving a crossover and sedans have been forced to be changed and be a little bit more different, and this is definitely something that's going to stand out. It has kind of that baby stinger look like the rest of the Kia lineup, but the upcoming GT line should give it that baby stinger feel. So even though the Optima name is dead, Kia wants you to know that the K5 is here to stay. And after spending some time driving both of these two trim lines, I have to agree with Kia. The new K5 is a huge improvement over the old Optima, especially when you look at the design. Both of these sedans really stand out in a way that the old Optima just didn't. And really what I like about this car is they've infused some of the Stinger DNA in the overall look. While the car may not have the way the Stinger's handling and power, the GT model, which is coming by the end of the year, should rectify that. As this one sits, the GT line is really just an appearance package. I would personally go for the EX model for a little bit more to get the extra features. But really, I much prefer the K5 over the Sonata because I like the way that Kia has styled this car. It has a lot of cool features. It looks very distinctive. And really in an SUV crazy world, you really want to drive around in a sedan that stands out because sedans just aren't as practical as SUVs. Everybody knows that. So the K5 really is going to do that for you, especially when you look at the GT line version of this car. Now, speaking of which, if you're trying to buy one of these things, what's it going to cost? Well, Kia has magically managed to throw in all this tech and features and only increase the price by about $100 compared to the Optima. This car starts at $23,490, which is actually a couple $100 less expensive than the Sonata, which makes this thing a screaming value. The GT line here starts at around $25,400. The EX model goes for about $2,500 more. With options, this one here is around $28,600, and this one here is a little over $32,500. So it's a really good value considering what Kia gives you. But keep in mind, if you guys are going to wait for the GT version of this car, you're going to spend probably around $3,000 on top of that one. But still, at $35,000 for nearly 300 horsepower, it gets me super excited to drive the GT version of this car. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview here on the 2021 Kia K5. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.
Did you know memory foam was developed in 1966? That's 10 years older than VHS.
So when I think of tailgating, I think of a bunch of people congregating at the back of a pickup truck bed, grilling some food at a sporting event. But of course, there's the American way of tailgating, and then there's also the Rolls-Royce way of tailgating. As you can see, this big purple beast is the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, which Rolls-Royce has sent me for the week to test. And on its long list of options, this particular one here has an option that's called the Viewing Suite, which is designed to make tailgating even more fancy. Because remember, this is supposed to be the fanciest SUV on the planet. Now, this option that you're seeing here as it pops out of this tray is nearly $20,000 extra. And with these two swing-out leather-lined chairs, although I'm a little sad that I have to manually open this, once you actually have this out and sit back here, you have to ask yourself, is something like this worth it? Because this Rolls-Royce Cullinan that I'm driving this week is around $430,000. And you have to ask yourself, is it actually worth it? Stay tuned to find out. Rob, where's my champagne flute?
You get water.
Hey, look, I actually caught it. So calling Calling this thing the fanciest SUV on the planet is a pretty bold statement. However, as you guys know, with Rolls-Royce, everything is made to order. This is a hand-built car in England, and it's essentially what royalty has driven for the last 100+ years. So the Cullinan, you guys know this is Rolls-Royce's first ever SUV, and it's accounted for nearly 25% of their sales here in America. In fact, Rolls-Royce said they sold over 5,000 cars in 2019, which is a 25% increase, all because of the Cullinan. Now, the coolest thing about a Rolls-Royce, besides the key fob matching the twilight purple color, which is 12 grand extra on this car, is when I unlock the damn thing, the Spirit of Ecstasy badge pops out or goes away depending on if the car is locked or unlocked. If you also try to steal the badge, it'll actually go back and retract itself so nobody can steal it. Now, by the way, this is just the pure silver badge. If you'd like, Rolls-Royce will allow you to option this out to be a gold badge, real gold, or carbon fiber, which I'm sure is like another $10,000 extra. Now, as you can see, my tester here is twilight purple. It's one of those customizable colors for $12,000 extra. And it also has a silver bonnet finish, which this is an extra $7,500, which is ridiculous to me to spend $20,000 on just the paint color. But you have to admit, it makes an already polarizing car that it stands out even more standoutish in this color. The grille is offered in several different finishes, and as you can see, it's actually a pretty sturdy full metal grille. This is milled aluminum. That's kind of what you find all over the exterior of the vehicle. As you guys also expect with a car that's this expensive, full LED headlights are standard. Rolls-Royce has a very distinctive look to the LED running light, LED turn signals, LED low and high beams. There are functional vents here and there. There's the sensor there, of course, for the radar cruise control. And really, you look at this car and you just think to yourself, it's really ugly. I don't particularly like the way it looks, but it's a Rolls-Royce. That badge means something. This is more prestigious than Mercedes, than Porsche, than Audi, than BMW, than Bentley even. Rolls-Royce says that this doesn't compete with the Bentayga, even though that is the direct competitor, because the Rolls-Royce, remember, has a starting price of around $330,000. This is not a cheap date by any means, and that's what you get with a Rolls-Royce. Now, following me over to the side of the vehicle, you can see the twilight purple is even more stunning, and the Cullinan is one of the biggest vehicles that the company has ever made, because this car stretches around 210 inches long. Its wheelbase is 130 inches long as well. This is about the same size as a Lincoln Navigator, which is, again, a big vehicle, although the Cullinan kind of hides its mass pretty well. You really don't notice how big it is until you actually get next to the vehicle and see the sheer size. Now, the Cullinan comes standard with either 21 or 22-inch wheels. These wheels here are actually free, if you can believe it. However, the center caps, which are painted to match the spokes of the wheels, are an extra $1,200. And I love the center caps because that Rolls-Royce emblem there stays upright. And when the vehicle's moving, you can actually see it jiggle back and forth, which is a pretty cool thing. This car also has an adjustable air suspension, which can raise and lower the car. Rolls-Royce actually gave this thing an off-road mode, if you can believe it, which is just crazy to me. Who the hell would take this thing off-road? Above me, there's a panoramic sunroof on this particular one here, or you can also replace that with the Stargaze headliner for like an extra $12,000, which would replace the panoramic sunroof with shooting stars and whatnot. At the rear of the vehicle, you can see typical Rolls-Royce design, full LED taillights, a lot more chrome. It's actually very low key. The front has a more distinctive look to the rear. You have these nicely integrated exhaust, which has kind of like an exhaust trim, but it's actually a quad look to the exhaust system. This car, as you guys know, has a V12 engine. Now at the back, I showed you guys this in the intro. I'll show you to you guys again. The cargo area, Rolls-Royce gives you a split tailgate design, and this viewing suite for an extra 12 grand that I showed you earlier takes up a good amount of space. I actually couldn't find numbers in terms of cargo volume back here, but as you can see, you can option up this car to whatever you'd like. You can actually get a refrigerator back here, which will eat into the space even more. I'd say this is probably around just under 30 cubic feet of space. It's not a lot, granted how large the car is, but remember, you don't buy a Cullinan for amazing cargo holding capability. You're gonna buy a Lincoln Navigator for that. You buy this because it is the ultimate luxury SUV, and the Cullinan certainly lives up to that reputation. So obviously the exterior of the Rolls-Royce Cullinan is definitely a magnificent sight, but you're going to be spending a lot of your time on the interior of this vehicle, which, by the way, this particular one has a lot of matching purple accents, which of course is extra. This is a Rolls-Royce. I have to say, the exterior, for me, I like the color combination, but I really like the interior with this light gray color, with the darker color accents, the purple accents. It is a very nice place to spend time. Now, first things first, you're probably noticing the door. I have it opened all the way. It's just so far, I can't really reach it without leaning over, but that's just way too tedious. So instead, Rolls-Royce just gives me a little button right here. If I push and hold that button, you can see the door will shut for me, which is very, very nice, of course. It only will shut for me. I can shut and close the passenger side door from this button for the passenger driver side over there. It is very nice, but you have to manually open the door, which is just so tedious. I wish that Rolls-Royce just made it so I could just push the button there to open the door as well. Now, when you finally get into the interior, which, by the way, that door sounds very, very solid. You can easily tell this car feels very expensive. Once you get inside and look at this interior, this is, remember, a car that's almost $500,000. And I will say that the interior looks very fancy. It looks very expensive. I like all the LED lighting. I like the seats you can see here with the Rolls-Royce embroidered onto the headrest with more of the contrast piping and stitching. This is $2,000 extra. The Spirit of Ecstasy logo on the door panels are also $1,200 extra. The leather stitching on the dash you see here with the contrast stitching, that's like another $1,500 extra. And if you notice, the steering wheel here is navy blue. This is $1,200 extra to have the steering wheel rim in navy blue, which it seems a little frivolous to me, and that's annoying. Now, to start up the Rolls-Royce, the button to start up the engine is actually over here on the left, like a Porsche. But when you start the car up,
We got one of those new purple mattresses, and it is amazing. You have to try it.
Oh, this doesn't feel like memory foam.
No.
This feels amazing.
Right?
What is it?
Actually, it's called Purple, and it's a completely unique comfort technology, meticulously designed to cradle and support the human body.
up, you literally don't even hear it start up. It's very electric motor smooth in here. The Spirit of Ecstasy over here on the left, like a Porsche. But when you start the car up, you literally don't even hear it start up. It's very electric motor smooth in here. The Spirit of Ecstasy logo, of course, is right there in your line of sight. It constantly reminds you that you're driving a Rolls-Royce. And the one disappointment with a lot of Rolls-Royce products actually has to do with the technology aspect. If you guys are looking for the most elaborate, new, modern infotainment systems, Rolls-Royce just doesn't have it. This is the older version of BMW's iDrive, of course. They don't call it that, but remember, Rolls-Royce is owned by BMW. It is missing wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto or any version of Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. For some reason, Rolls-Royce just doesn't incorporate it into their system, and I think that needs to change tremendously. I think that's a huge omission that even the Rolls-Royce buyer, I think, is going to want, so I think they definitely need to fix that. As you can see here, if you just go to the GPS in this car, let's look at the map display here. It's literally BMW, which is not a bad thing. It's a pretty decent looking display. This is 10.25 inches in size, which is a little bit small. I expected this to be a 12-inch. This over here on the instrument panel looks like a bunch of traditional dials, but it's actually a digital display behind there. And the power reserve, that's always a Rolls-Royce thing. They don't like to show any engine stress like a tachometer, so instead, whenever you put your foot down, it just changes based on your throttle input, which it won't show anything right now because I'm not in gear, obviously. The rest of this interior has a lot of bespoke materials. You've got real wood, real leather everywhere. This is milled aluminum trim. Even like the gauge vents, if you want to close and open them, this feels incredibly solid, very nice. The climate control system, there's 4 zones in this car. It's automatic, but again, Rolls-Royce uses like a soft, medium, high, max for the fan speed, and then you've got the 2 separate temperature dials here, which I imagine one of them is probably for face and one is for your feet, perhaps. There's a lot of very nice, high-quality knobs and buttons over here. Your door lock switch is over here, hazard is over here, and then this right here is the big volume knob, which is nice. When you put the vehicle into reverse, you can see this car does give you a full 360 camera, which the resolution quality is pretty good. This is what I expect from a lot of current BMW products, so this is good where they kind of use that. There's even a door lid here that can close if you guys want to cover up the infotainment system if you guys would like. Now, in terms of the materials here on the door, you can see it's all leather, real wood. You've got the 16-speaker, 1,300 watt bespoke audio system, which is 10 grand extra. It sounds fairly good. It's pretty comparable to the last Burmester Bang & Olufsen sound system that I've tested in some other premium cars. All the leather stitching is kind of accentuated down on the lower door panels. You even have purple leather over here on the inner part of the door panels, which is nice. The window controls feel very high quality. It's all metal switchgear, of course. Mirror controls over there. This controls your headlight controls. That's for the full driver assistance suite, which is optional, although my car has it, so it's got adaptive cruise control, automatic emergency braking, etc. Rolls-Royce has been kind of fixing that a little bit. There's heated and cooled seats, as you can see, and like a lot of European cars, you can turn on the heated seats with the cooled seats at the same time. A heated steering wheel, which is only 1 level. And then down here you can see there's 2-person memory seats, and you also have memory on the other side. And this button over here, if I push that, gives me the massaging feature, which is also very nice. this entire system is fairly easy to use. It's also a touchscreen on certain aspects. Like I can't scroll around like that, but it is a touchscreen if I prefer to use that. But if you want to scroll through that, you have to use the dial. Rolls-Royce also gives you the Spirit of Ecstasy logo over here, a lot of shortcut buttons, a lot of chrome trim in here, which can get a little bit annoying when you're trying to keep this free of fingerprints. And then there's also an off-road button over here. If I push that, the car's air suspension will actually raise up. You can see here it shows you what level it's at and whatnot. I don't know entirely what the level of range is, but who in their right mind would take their Rolls-Royce off-roading? But it's good to know that you can, because remember, this is an SUV. Opening up this, you can see it's a pretty good amount of storage, more chrome. There's two USB-C charging ports in there, which actually surprised me that they put a USB-C. And these seats are so comfortable. The leather just feels expensive, high quality. They adjust in like 20 different ways. Although I'm surprised to see that this right here is actually manual, which seems a little funny to put on a very expensive car like this. The headliner, as you can see, is also wrapped in leather. The visors are also wrapped in leather, which is very nice. All of this is LED lighting. And if you'd like, you can close this, the panoramic sunroof, which if you guys want the Stargaze headliner, you have to give up the sunroof, which is kind of annoying. I think Rolls-Royce should just be able to offer both at the same time, maybe. If you open up this, you can see the glove compartment is a little bit small, but it's damped and lined with felt, and the lambswool carpet in here is just so incredibly nice. So overall, the cabin of this Rolls-Royce, to me, feels special and expensive, but the technology aspect is where Rolls-Royce definitely could use an upgrade. So obviously with a Rolls-Royce, you might be driving it, but you also might be rich enough to have your own driver. So the rear seat of the car is really where you want to spend a lot of your time. And it wouldn't be a Rolls-Royce without the signature umbrella that comes out of the doors. There's actually two umbrellas. I've heard that this umbrella is $800 to replace. So make sure you don't lose the umbrella. It fits very nicely into this cool little door pocket here and even clicks into place. Now, you're probably noticing the rear looks a little bit sparse. That's because these are the free lounge chairs. Really, the seats that you want are the sanctuary seats, which I don't know how much those sanctuary seats cost, because on Rolls-Royce's website, if you option in that feature, it doesn't actually tell you the price. It's probably one of those things where if it's too expensive, if you have to ask how much it costs, it's too expensive. Now, as you can see, Rolls-Royce doesn't disclose how much legroom you get back here. It's enough legroom. This car is huge. You have a ton of space back here. I'd probably say it's around 42 inches of legroom. That's pretty similar to the last, those big full-size pickup trucks. And you know what? Even though these are the base seats, the leather in here is just so incredibly plush. The lambswool carpet, I just want to take off my shoes and socks and just sink my feet into how soft these carpeted mats are. They're $2,000 extra, totally worth it, worth every penny. In terms of additional features, for example, this door is a suicide door, as I said, and you know what? Just like the front seats, I can't be bothered to close it. It's just too far. I just push this button over here, the door closes for me automatically. You do have to push and hold the button, which for some reason there didn't actually close. Let's try that again.
Broken.
Why is it not closing? Oh, why is it not closing? Oh, what's going on? Why aren't you closing, car? Oh, the umbrella's sticking out.
Why would the umbrella be sticking out?
I don't know. It's like, I guess we can try to fix that. Okay.
All right.
Nothing to see here. So take two. The reason why that door wasn't shutting is because the umbrella was sticking out slightly. Let's try that one more time. There we go. It even soft closes for me. Now, getting back here and sitting down, as I mentioned, the seats are super comfortable. If you wanted to get the sanctuary seats, it'll replace this middle seat here with basically a refrigerator, an entire console. You'll have seats that have like an adjustable calf, like massager and massaging rear seats and cooled seats. This one here only has heated back seats, so it's pretty sparse by Rolls-Royce standards. You do have this little armrest here. It's pretty basic, especially for a Rolls-Royce. I'm not entirely happy with the way that the lounge seats kind of look, but at least the leather is very comfortable. Now, my tester also has a rear seat theater package. When I push this button here, you can see these screens pop out, and you can essentially just control what you see in the front, in the back of the seats. You can also play, movies back here and whatnot. The screen itself is a very nice size. I like the fact that it allows you to tilt and adjust it. I am missing picnic tables back here, which have these little tray tables that fold out. It would allow me to get some work done, so I'm a little sad that that's not an option on this particular one here. The pano sunroof, however, is very nice. However, if you want, you can also get the Star Bright headliner, which will replace the pano sunroof with these fiber optic lights that creates the image of a shooting star. I think that's a pretty cool thing. Other than that, the back seat, as you can see, it's a really nice place to spend time. I would also option in the manual sunshades or the power sunshades, which my tester doesn't have. So really, with a Rolls-Royce, you're probably gonna have to spend like an extra $30,000 to $40,000 upgrading the rear seat. My tester only has the $10,000 option for the rear seat entertainment system. But really, it is fairly basic back here for a Rolls-Royce. Now underneath the massive hood of the Cullinan, you're gonna find a choice of two engines, although it's the same displacement, a 6.75 liter, that's right, a 7.5 liter V12 that's twin turbocharged. Now the big news for 2020 is the black badge model, which I actually showed you guys a first look last year. That makes 600 horsepower, which is around 40 more than the base engine, which I have here. This still makes a really nice 563 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque. The numbers don't really matter. Just know that it's a twin turbocharged V12. Of course, it's hand built. It comes standard with all-wheel drive. It all goes out through an 8-speed automatic transmission. It's the ZF 8-speed that we all know and like. Now, fuel economy, in case you guys are wondering, is rated at 12 in the city, which is awful, but a not so awful 20 mpg on the highway. This is actually better mpg than what you're going to get in like a G-Wagon, a G63, and the Bentley Bentayga with the W12, the 12-cylinder engine. Now, the Rolls-Royce Cullinan will also tow a maximum of 7,725 pounds. So this thing is an SUV. It can actually do SUV things. And of course, with something that's this big, it's pretty damn heavy. This thing weighs over 3 tons at around 6,069 pounds. So here I am driving the most expensive press car that I've ever gotten in my local hometown. I mean, last month McLaren gave me the GT, which was, you know, over $250,000. Rolls-Royce figures they would top that at almost $500,000. And I have to say, driving around a car like this really, really, really makes me...
Did you know that the wrong mattress protector can ruin the feel of your mattress?
Fall in love with what I do again, all over again, because this is literally what the 1% of people drive. And it's kind of surreal, so I feel very privileged, very lucky to be able to drive something like this. It's just such a cool experience. And even the stairs and, you know, the people looking at this thing. Sometimes you get some people looking like rolling their eyes, but then other times you get people just doing a double take, because I think it's this car's purple color that really just gets a lot of attention. It is very much bespoke. It is very unique. But, you know, I drove a Cullinan last year at a BMW press event, but that was a really short drive. It was like I only had maybe an hour or two with the car. After having the Rolls-Royce Cullinan for about 3 days, 3 short days that go by very quickly, I have to say, this is a car that makes you feel special. It drives special, it rides like a dream. I mean, Rolls-Royce calls it a magic carpet ride for a reason. Even right now, I've got the audio system off, obviously. I'm just kind of cruising along. It is just so incredibly smooth in this thing. So smooth, so quiet. The V12 just offers an electric motor smoothness that you don't get with any other gasoline combustion engine. The 8-speed auto is super smooth. The V12 makes very little noise. I mean, sure, I wish that it had more of like a performance feel to it. The Cullinan Black Badge, which I haven't had a chance to drive, is supposed to deliver that. But you don't buy a Rolls-Royce to go, you know, sporty driving. This is not a sporty car. This is a car that coddles you, that is such an incredible, you know, cruiser. I'm sitting here getting a massage. The seats are so plush. The ride, even though it's on 22-inch wheels with the air suspension, this is a car that has the best ride quality that I've ever ridden in, without a doubt. So Rolls-Royce always nails their magic carpet ride quality easily. So that was only like literally a quarter throttle there, and you guys saw how the entire front end kind of just bucks down, like the rear squats a little bit. This thing feels like it just wants to keep stretching his legs, and that's the thing about this car, is it weighs over 3 tons. It is a heavy, heavy, heavy car. And you feel that weight, but it's got so much power that you kind of are just in shock at how easily this thing will accelerate. It just keeps moving. It keeps wanting to pull as well. 0 to 60 in this thing happens in probably under 5 seconds. And for a beast that weighs over 6,000 pounds, you can't argue that that is impressive. And you know what? Even though this engine makes very little noise, when it actually does start to, you know, rev up, I like the noise it makes. Anything with a V12, like a V12 is an inherently smooth engine. It's two inline sixes that are merged at a V angle, so obviously this is going to be smooth. It's going to be quiet. It also makes the bonnet extremely long, as you can see. The Spirit of Ecstasy is right there, but if you guys don't want to see that, you can go here into the vehicle settings and go to Spirit of Ecstasy, and you can tell the car to lower it, and as you can see, it just disappears right under the hood. But why would you want to do that? You want to be able to see that as you're driving. It's a constant reminder of the prestige that you are driving. But in terms of the handling ability, for a big car or big SUV, I'm surprised at actually how well the Cullinan handles. I mean, obviously, you know, it's got very slow steering. It's electric power steering. It doesn't offer much in terms of feedback, but the car is just so damn heavy and planted that you can take corners a lot faster in this thing that you probably didn't think you could. It also has very good control of its body motions. Like, I'm always super impressed with how these big, heavy SUVs, you know, take fast corners. They can actually take fast corners relatively well. You've got these big, massive 22s on 285 wood tires. There is no adjustable suspension in terms of like a Sport or a Sport Plus, which I actually find it to be rather, you know, pleasant how they don't do that, because, you know, why would you want to put something like this in sport mode? It has an off-road mode, and that's really the only thing that'll allow you to adjust in terms of the suspension with the air suspension. And sure, like, could they have given us a sport mode, made this thing a little bit stiffer? Absolutely, but why would you want to do that? You buy a Rolls Royce because it coddles you in luxury. Oh my God. Yeah, this thing easily gets up to speeds, and you don't feel the speed about this car. I mean, even at highway speeds, there's so little noise in here. I barely hear the engine aside from just a very nice muted growl, which sounds good. And everything else about it is just so premium. It just feels like everything else is below you in terms of prestige with Rolls-Royce. So, you know, when Rolls-Royce likes to say, oh, we don't have any competition, we're at the top of our game, they're kind of right, although I will say that I haven't driven a modern Bentley, so I'll have to wait and see. I mean, obviously the Bentayga is its closest competitor for me, but even the Bentayga is like $100,000 less expensive than this car. Like $500,000 for an SUV just seems rather crazy, but it's Rolls-Royce, so you better be crazy and rich to be able to afford something like this. Now, in terms of the fuel economy, I'd mentioned that it's rated to 12 city, 20 highway. On the highway, I actually got 22 mpg in this thing. That is not bad considering how big and how heavy this thing is. In the mixed driving, city and highway, I get around 14 mpg. So not great mpg, obviously, but it's still not bad for what it is. And, you know, sitting here riding in comfort, quiet, serene, like, you just kind of forget about the stresses of the outside world, and that's kind of the beauty with a Rolls-Royce. So this car, for me, definitely feels like the ultimate in luxury SUV motoring. You just better be able to pay a pretty damn penny for it, because this car is literally 10 times the price of something like, for example, like a Toyota Highlander or a Volkswagen Atlas, which you obviously can't compare the two, but you have to ask yourself, is this thing actually worth 10 times the price? So when you get the opportunity to spend a couple of days with a car that costs nearly $500,000, your perception of reality can definitely become blurred, because this car seriously coddles you. I've been spoiled in a lot of press cars over the years, but having to spend a couple days with this, I'm going to be really sad to give this one back, because it really gives you a taste of what the super wealthy actually get to live with. This is a car that is literally only for the 1% of people, because it starts, as I said, at $327,000 for the base version. If you guys want the black badge model with an extra 40 horsepower, that'll cost you an extra $50,000. Now, my tester here has about $100,000 worth of options, which I'm not going to go over what those are, because we'd be here all day reading down the list from the Monroney sticker. But you should know that this is a car that's going to obviously coddle you. It makes a statement, painted in this bright shade of purple, which I actually kind of love, although some people have told me it reminds them of Barney, which I can kind of see it. This is a car that you're going to constantly drive around or be chauffeured around and kind of remind yourself, I've made it in life. And that's exactly why Rolls-Royce has the prestige that they have across the world. This car brand essentially drives around royalty, and they've done so for the last 100+ years. Now, with all that said, it's really hard for me to find some things to nitpick about. I mean, sure, I really think that Rolls-Royce needs to hurry up and add Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It's got the older version of the BMW iDrive system. But really, in terms of my complaints, it's really hard to complain about Rolls-Royce because these cars are custom built. They're all hand built with bespoke options, and you can really option them up to your heart's content. So it's really difficult to find flaws other than the fact that it's so bloody expensive. But if you can afford something like this, you're not going to be worried about the cost. You're not going to be worried about the fuel economy. You're not going to be worried about the value proposition because you're buying this because it's a Rolls-Royce. You're buying it for the prestigious badge. With all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2020 Rolls-Royce Cullinan. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.
Texas farm and ranch families have grown a country. As a proud American company, we're saying thanks. Introducing Polaris Ag Advantage, an exclusive program to support Texas farmers and ranchers.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I'm going to start off today's video by asking you a simple question. What do you think is the best-selling Mercedes-Benz model here in America? Is it the C-Class? The E-Class? Well, if you answered any of those, you're actually wrong. The best-selling model here in America is the vehicle that's right behind me. This is the 2020 Mercedes-Benz GLC class, more specifically the GLC 300. And last year, Mercedes managed to sell around 73,000 units, which makes it the third best-selling luxury vehicle here in the States. So in today's video, I've got the latest version. Let's take a look and see what makes this model so popular with Americans. As most of you guys probably know, the GLC class replaced the GLK class back in 2015 as the compact SUV in the Mercedes-Benz lineup. Since then, there's two new models that slot below the GLC. Of course, there's the GLA and the GLB, which the GLB may eventually overtake this model to be the best-selling Mercedes-Benz model once that car continues to pick up steam. It just went on sale. Now, of course, with over 73,000 units sold in 2019. This makes it the best-selling Mercedes-Benz model by about 23,000 units. It outsold the C-Class by that many units, and the C-Class used to sell like nearly 100,000 every year. So it kind of shows you how sales for the C-Class have been cut in half, and it reminds everybody that everyone here in America prefers to buy an SUV over a car. Now here in the DC area, I see a lot of Mercedes-Benz models, and the GLC is probably the one that I see the most of. Now because it's such a popular vehicle, Mercedes was very conservative with the overall design of this thing when it came out. It got an extensive overhaul this year for 2020 with the introduction, of course, of the coupe model a couple years ago, but this is the actual regular GLC. So this one here with the AMG Sport package, I think actually looks fairly nice. Now, I probably wouldn't have spec'd out a silver with the red interior. I would have preferred a white with this red interior, but regardless of the color choice, which is going to come down to your personal taste, this is still a very attractive and modern looking SUV. Now, the interior of most Mercedes-Benz models is where you're going to be spending a lot of your time, of course, and the GLC, even though has been out for a few years, Mercedes has managed to keep the interior pretty fresh. On the inside of the latest Mercedes-Benz GLC, you can see, if you guys are familiar with the Mercedes-Benz interior, this is still going to be quite a nice place to spend time. Mercedes did make some updates to it for 2020, so let's go over all of those. Now, as you can see, the steering wheel, the overall dash layout hasn't really changed, although they did make the screen larger for the 2020 model year. When you come over here and shut the door, it still has a very solid thunk. My tester also has a power tilt and telescoping steering wheel, which is a nice option. Some of the competitors in this segment don't even offer that. Now, of course, as you can see here, my tester has a $1,500 upgrade for the interior that includes this two-tone cranberry red on black leather seats. It includes heated seats, but ventilated seats. As you can see, there's an empty button here on the door panel, is an extra like $500 that my tester is frustratingly missing. The seats themselves adjust in like 16 ways on the driver's side, 14 ways on the passenger side. So there's a lot of adjustability in here, so you can pretty much get in this car and get comfortable. Now, in terms of the materials, if you guys pay an extra like $500, you can get the MB-Tex stitching on the dash, where this is genuine stitching. It's a soft touch injection molded plastic over there, and then it also extends over onto the door panels here. You've got genuine aluminum trim, which is very nice. Even the window switches are trimmed in metal. So again, this adds to that feeling of luxury and quality. More of that stitching on this part of the door handle, and then it's soft touch padded right down here on this lower portion with lots of additional storage. My tester also has an optional heads-up display for $1,000, and for another $700, you can spec in this full 12.3-inch digital display, which is customizable. You can change the way those gauges looks by going into the settings and the menu system. This is the latest MBUX infotainment system, so you can say things like "Ask Mercedes to find you, your nearest Starbucks." You can also turn that off, because these things, as you guys know, will constantly interrupt me when I'm trying to do a review. You can see the steering wheel on this model looks fairly nice. It's not the full AMG wheel with a flat bottom, but you do have these touch-sensitive pads here, which allows you to control that part of the info cluster, the instrument cluster, or use this one and it controls the actual 10.25-inch display. Paddle shifters are included. Your adaptive cruise control switches are also all over the steering wheel. This one here has the driver assistance package for like another $1,800. Your gear selector is over here. Mercedes puts it as a stock on the right side of the wheel. Put it into reverse. You can see my tester has the parking assistance package for like another $1,200, which gives you the full 360 camera, which is definitely nice. One of the best resolution cameras in the industry. So I like to see that Mercedes has really kept this interior fresh, even though this has been out for almost 5 years now. The beauty about MBUX is this is also a touchscreen, which is very nice. You can kind of go into and change all your settings. You can look at your comfort. You can also adjust the ambient lighting. It also includes things like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, although with this smaller 10.25-inch display, it doesn't take up the entire real estate here of the display, which I wish it did. On the 12-inch displays, it does. So I kind of wish that Mercedes would just kind of implement that throughout, but it does look fairly nice. It's intuitive. This has a somewhat of a learning curve, but I've been in enough Mercedes-Benz products to realize that most of the times I just use this as a touchscreen, or you can also use this little command pad down here, which does the same thing. So the screen is within a good, easy reach, so most of you, I imagine, will just go and touch the screen, which really makes it a lot more simple. These vents you can see here are also very high quality feeling. They're made of real metal trim. Nice toggles over here with a lot of shortcut buttons over here. I love this wood trim. It actually feels like wood. It actually feels like it'll give me splinters if I keep doing this, but it's a very high quality look. This still looks very fancy even after 5 years on the market. Open up this and you get 2 cup holders, a wireless phone charger, a USB cable jack there for the Apple CarPlay. Your dynamic mode selector is over here. If you play with this, you can see there's an Eco, Comfort, Sport Plus, and an individual setting. The graphics all look very good. It's very crystal clear. You can also access your parking camera there. You can turn off the system. Your volume is a little wheel over there, and you've got your stability control off switch. This is a nice padded area over here, and if you open this up, you can see 2 more USB-C ports, a good amount of storage over there, and then over here you can see the glove box, pretty good size. It's damped and lined with felt, and then above me for $1,500 extra, you can also spec in the panoramic sunroof, which some of the competitors for this vehicle come with that as standard equipment, so kind of keep that in mind. So overall, I think Mercedes has done a really good job with keeping this interior fresh, full of the latest tech. It feels relatively roomy in here. I would also option in the Burmester sound system for $850. Really great sounding audio system, some of the best sounding speakers that I've heard in the industry, tops with the rest of the other European offerings in the segment. Now back here you get 37 inches of legroom, which does make the GLC on the average side for the segment in terms of actual space. I'm 5'7", and as you can see, I get pretty good amount of foot space underneath the front seats. This is where I have the seat to drive. There is not a flat floor here, because remember, this is a rear drive based car. The tri-zone climate control that you see here is optional. It's $750 extra. It doesn't include the heated rear seats, however. You have to spec that in as an additional $500 extra, but you get rear seat vents back there. When you get back here, you can see you have the same MB Tech stitching here on the door panels, that same aluminum or that red trim. 3-level heated seats, but you can see there's a button here for a cooled seat, but it's not offered on the GLC, which doesn't surprise me there. You have 2 mat pockets over here, which is nice. And then if you want to fold down this armrest here, you get some storage, and you also get 2 cup holders, which is good. The seats on this car don't actually slide forward and back. Sadly, they also do not adjust for recline, so the seats themselves are just kind of fixed, or you can fold them down to expand the cargo capacity. So I really like what Mercedes has done for the inside of this GLC. They've kept it really nice over the years, and I can't believe that it's due for a replacement. I really like how they've put their latest infotainment system in this car. Now, in terms of the powertrain choices, just like the C-Class, the GLC offers a plethora of them. I'm driving the base engine, which is the one that most people buy. It got upgraded this year with more power, and the other models, the AMG 43, also got an upgrade this year as well. Now, even though this is the base engine in the GLC, Mercedes says you'll get to 60 in around 6.1 seconds, regardless of whether you pick the rear drive or the 4MATIC all-wheel drive model. This is enough power for most people. It keeps pace, of course, with the BMW X3 xDrive 30i and the Audi Q5 with its 2-liter turbocharged engine. Now, of course, being a 2-liter turbo, the engine itself is rather uninspiring sounding. Most vehicles in this segment don't have that pleasant of a noise. It's paired with a 9-speed automatic, which is a Mercedes-designed transmission. Transmission will bang off some pretty crisp shifts. It's also a smooth partner. It's relatively responsive when you have it in the Sport Plus setting like I do now. I found when I had this car in comfort, the transmission is overly annoyingly trying to stay in its top gear to get the best gas mileage. So I find that the best way to drive this thing is in Sport or Sport Plus. It actually isn't too annoying to drive every day in Sport Plus, which is good. The ride quality in the GLC also has been improved over the years. When I first drove this car, I thought the ride quality was a little bit firm. This one here has the 19-inch wheels. You can also spec it up to a 20 or 21-inch wheel if you guys look at the AMG 43 or 63 models. That obviously will make the ride quality stiffer, but these 19s strike the perfect balance for me. They have a nice, controlled, comfortable ride quality. It's very quiet in here. My tester has, for an extra $150, which is an insult, the extra thick glass that for the windshield and for the side mirrors or the windows. It makes the interior one of the quietest in the segment. Very little road, very little wind noise, just a little bit of engine noise when you guys play with this 4-cylinder. But overall, it's such a pleasant driving car that offers plenty of torque. That's the beauty about these turbocharged engines. They offer so much low-end torque. This one offers 273 that you don't really have to rev the crap out of the engine. There's plenty of mid-range from about 3,000 to about 5,000 RPM. It is so smooth as well. Mercedes has really been working to address that. And the visibility in here is also really easy. I mean, view out of the front is good. The car is nice and short, but it sits up higher, so you get that SUV seating height. My tester has the driver assistance package for another $2,000, whatever. So it has the full speed range adaptive cruise control. It also has auto lane changing, which is nice. Mercedes and Tesla are the only ones that offer that.
To RAV4's hybrid drivetrain and say yes to remarkable performance. With remarkable performance, you push the limits of fun. Push the limits and you feel like a stunt driver in a movie starring you. Say yes to RAV4 hybrid.
And this thing will get up to highway speeds pretty quickly, so it has enough power for most people. I only found that on the highway there were times where I was trying to pass people, and that's where I wish I had the extra 130 horsepower from the GLC 43, which got a power boost for the 2020 model year. But other than that, I find very little faults with this car. I mean, the seats are comfortable, it's very quiet, it's very roomy, it's full of tech, it's full of safety. The problem with the GLC is how expensive it is. It's also not a great value because, you know, this one here is practically fully loaded and it's still missing cooled seats. It's such an insult to me that it's missing cooled seats. I have to pay an extra $450 to get cooled seats when it should be included, especially at this price point. Mercedes needs to do a better job of just grouping things together into a premium package, which they offer for $500, but then they charge you extra for the wireless charging, the satellite radio, the 12-inch display here, a la carte, which makes this thing super expensive and also super annoying when you're actually trying to find the one you want on the dealer lot. Now, in terms of fuel economy, this one here is rated at 22 in the city, 28 on the highway, and I actually have been averaging around 24 mpg in my week's worth of testing, which is not bad. On a full tank of gas, this thing was showing a little over 400 miles of cruising range, which is fairly good. I mean, obviously you're going to be using less gas by going for the 4-cylinder version. There's also a 350 plug-in version, which is going on sale probably in the next month or so. That will offer an electric motor that's paired with this 4-cylinder turbo. Fuel economy information has not been announced yet on that plug-in, but it does offer 315 horsepower, so like an additional 60 plus horsepower over this model here. That, of course, will be a different review. So even though the latest Mercedes-Benz GLC 300 may not be the flashiest, may not be the most luxurious, may not be the most sportiest to drive, it certainly does a lot of things well, and that's what makes this car so popular with a lot of luxury shoppers. It is just incredibly well balanced. The 300 version has just the right amount of power for most. If you guys spec it out with the AMG Sport package like this one, it actually stands out a little bit more and doesn't look quite so bland like some of the baser models. And like the C-Class, this is just about the right size for a lot of Americans. And of course, if you guys want more power, Mercedes offers the GLC 43 and the GLC 63. Now, what's interesting about the GLC is I believe its sales figures are going to start to go down because Mercedes has another model in their lineup called the GLB, which I actually think is slightly roomier on the inside, and I think it actually looks better, although the GLB is based off of a front drive architecture. This is based off of a rear drive architecture like the C-Class, in which its name is based off of. Now, of course, if you guys are looking to buy a GLC, it's still an excellent choice, and it starts at $42,500 for the base rear drive version. Add $2,000 more if you guys want the 4MATIC all-wheel drive. Now, of course, Mercedes, like every other luxury brand, has a plethora of options. A lot of them are a la carte. This one here stickers for a little over $61,000, which is expensive. It's a good $10,000 more expensive than something like an Acura RDX or a Lexus NX, but some of you would probably argue that the Mercedes badge definitely means something. It has an interior that's still incredibly luxurious and full of the latest tech, especially this year when they added MBUX and that 10.25-inch display. And really, it's still an incredibly well-rounded vehicle, but I'm curious to see if this car will remain the best-selling model in the Mercedes lineup now that the GLB is finally here. And I personally think the GLB is slightly more useful because it has more interior space on the inside. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2020 Mercedes-Benz GLC 300. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.
Stadia streams games directly from Google's data centers to your device.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are having a fantastic day. I know my day just got significantly better because Honda just dropped off one of the coolest press cars that I've ever received. This absolutely beautiful, mint, super clean 1999 Prelude Type SH has just only 2,872 miles. That's right, under 3,000 miles on this thing. And quite frankly, I think this Prelude Type SH is probably the cleanest Type SH Prelude on the planet. And in today's video, I'm going to go over all the reasons why. right, so as you can see, I've moved the car into the sun because I really wanted to show you guys just how well the paint on this car still shines. You've never seen a 1999 model year car with paint quality that looks this good. It basically looks like it's rolled off the factory showroom floor because this car used to sit in Honda's museum, I believe, their history museum back in California, and I have it here in DC for the next couple of days, driving it for the last couple of days because I've never driven one of these Preludes, so I think it's a really cool, nostalgic, timeless piece. So today let's go look at some of the reasons why this car is probably the cleanest example Prelude Type SH on the planet. I mean, check out this paint, guys. This is what Honda calls crystal blue metallic. First of all, the color, I didn't even realize it was blue. It's always looked like a silver gray color to me. In the sunlight, you can see a little bit of the blue flakes in it, so it does resemble blue a little bit. But really, I'm just amazed at how clean this car is, how timeless the Prelude still looks. Now, if you guys are looking for a full review on this car where I actually drive it, be sure to come back when I actually post the full review on this car. In today's video, we're just going to go over all the reasons why this Prelude is probably the cleanest example that I've seen on the planet. Now, you can see most cars in this age group have very faded headlights. As you can see, this one's been sitting in a garage all its life. The headlights have no damage on them whatsoever. They still shine. Of course, it's a halogen headlight. The grille, the front bumper has no nicks whatsoever on it. It just looks like a brand new car because it essentially is a brand new car, obviously. Now, moving around the sides, you can see the wheels on this car. Typically, I find wheels from this era of vehicle, and these silver 5-spoke wheels from Honda are typically very corroded, very damaged, very curb rashed. And check out these wheels, guys. The original brakes, original rotors, there's no damage whatsoever. Honda actually moved to a 5-lug design on the wheel hubs for this generation Prelude. And look, it's got really skinny 205 50 series R16 tires. Honda did replace the tires. These Michelins were manufactured in 2018, but of course, 20-year-old tires are going to eventually dry rot. Looking at the rest of the body, you can see the sunroof looks brand new. There's no rust, there's no scratches. Everything in here, even the plastic pieces here, have no damage whatsoever. There's not even any like fingernail scratches that you typically find in this generation of vehicle. And it's just really, really cool. It's like a rolling time machine to see this car because it looks like it's been sitting in a time capsule and nobody's touched it for the last 20 years. Now, at the back, you can see very cool, nice, tasteful rear spoiler. You've got the Type SH sticker. It's not a badge, it's actually a sticker along with the double overhead cam VTEC, because remember, this has the loved H22 motor. And you can see the taillights, no corrosion, no fading, no water leaking in whatsoever. You have the factory exhaust system, which you can see the Prelude came with a chrome-tipped single outlet exhaust. No rust whatsoever, no holes, no leaks. Man, this car, if Honda put it on Bring a Trailer, would easily bring, you know, over $30,000. It's just a really, really cool car to see in person. Over here on the roof, I am seeing a slight flaw in the car. You can see the weather stripping is slightly peeling back a little bit. This is pretty known to happen in this generation era of cars. Even a car that sat in a garage for all of its life still has that issue, but very small, minor flaw for a car that's otherwise perfect. And underneath this heavy hood, you're gonna find the crown jewel of this generation Prelude. It's the H22 A4 motor. This double overhead cam, 2.2 liter VTEC 4-cylinder develops 200 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. The Type SH only came with a 5-speed manual transmission. Front-wheel drive is your only option. I mean, check out this engine, guys. Look at it. It's completely unmolested. It still has all the factory components on it, factory air intake on it. You have this beautiful looking engine, which Honda's engines just don't look quite as pretty as this car, or as this engine used to. And really, this is such a cool thing to see. You could practically eat off of this engine. I think that's probably the best aspect of this car. I know a lot of people would kill for that motor. They often do these motor swaps into Civics, but to find it in such good condition in this Prelude is a really cool sight indeed. Oh, this brings back memories. Just listen to that old school Honda chime. I love that sound. The newer Hondas, of course, have gone away from that chime. And look at this interior of this car. Just like the exterior, it is in just immaculate condition. The steering wheel comes off of a 6th generation Civic. The seats come off of that. I mean, this car, the interior, for how aggressive it looks on the outside, is a rather simple looking interior. The cloth material you can see has that 90s fabric pattern over there. They didn't even offer leather on this thing. The steering wheel rim, as you can see, is very thin, and it also has the classic Honda horn buttons over there, which is cool. At least you have dual airbags on this car. You don't have motorized seat belts. That went away in the early 90s, of course. Ooh, getting inside and sitting in this thing, wow, look at the visibility in this car. It's just incredible. Let me turn the key to shut that ding off. The visibility in this car, it's just incredible. Let me turn the key to shut that ding off. Oh, she starts right up, she purrs, no, shut that. Sitting in this thing, wow, look at the visibility in this car. It's just incredible. Let me turn the key to shut that ding off. Oh, she starts right up, she purrs, no warning lights whatsoever. You still have anti-lock brakes. I mean, what a cool, awesome car.
2020 has been the year of the unthinkable. So Wells Fargo is using some of our locations as drive-up food banks to help provide 50 million meals. The unthinkable has happened. Now it's time to rethink how to make a difference. Wells Fargo.
When your ambition is as big as Texas, you need a utility side-by-side born for this place. Meet the Ranger XP 1000 Texas Edition. Go big or
That this is, and just look at the visibility in this car. I can see out of it so well from these thin pillars, the low hood, the side mirrors. I mean, it's just a very open and airy feeling cabin that has aged. I mean, it obviously looks old, but I kind of get in this car and it smells like nostalgia for me. It smells like high school for me because this is such a cool thing. I mean, check out the mileage right there, guys. 2,874. All right, so I put 2 miles on it since I drove this thing for the introduction of the video. You've got that 7,400 RPM red line because remember, this has that H22 VTEC engine. Ooh, you'll have to come back to the second video if you guys want to see the driving scene for this car. But I mean, look at the rest of this interior. The chrome door handles here, typically I see these start peeling and warping away. This is still perfect. Typically you also see some of the panels in here start to peel away and separate from each other. They're all still perfect. Everything in here just works with a nice precision. Look at that cruise control button over there. I haven't seen one of those since a 1990s Honda. You have your moonroof control down here, of course. The sunroof on this car is still perfect. It's a very small sunroof, actually. It seems smaller than even the standard size sunroofs today. It didn't have a tilt feature. You could only open it. You couldn't actually tilt it up. I didn't even realize that. You can see the map pockets or the map lights, just a halogen bulb, of course. There's a vinyl headliner here. The seats also, ooh, I mean, they're in perfect condition. There's basically no, damage to it, no cigarette burns. I see these 90s Hondas typically with so many cigarette burns. The dash also is perfect. There's no cracks. Everything in here still has a very tight panel gap. I mean, check out this clock. I remember when Honda used to do that where you could reset it and you could change the time from these little buttons over here. Just really old school style slider controls for the ventilation. I mean, I haven't seen these in so long. By the way, the AC still blows ice cold. That's what I loved about these older Hondas. They had really cold air conditioning. The head unit, factory head unit. That's something that owners typically replace immediately. You can see it's just a single CD player. There's a little separate DIN here if you guys wanted to put a cassette player. I believe it was an accessory if you wanted a cassette player, or maybe they started taking those out in 1999. I can't remember. Stereo system's nothing to brag about, of course. The steering wheel, as you can see, it's got your cruise control buttons and a very thin rim. It's amazing to me how modern cars have gotten fatter and fatter steering wheel rims, which I like because this just feels like I'm not really gripping on too much, but you gotta love those horn buttons. I mean, old Honda turn signals here from the 90s that are really cool. I love that. The 5-speed shifter is still a really great shifter. Surprisingly short throws even by modern standards. Reverse, of course, is over there. No backup camera, no iPod connectivity, no satellite radio. The clutch has a nice springy effort. It's a really easy car to drive. And even the handbrake, it hasn't been yanked so hard by multiple people, so it actually is adjusted properly. You don't typically, I find that these older cars, you pull on them so hard because people have yanked on them for too hard and they've ruined the setting on that. Look at that, an ashtray over here. You've got 2 cup holders. You have a nice two-tier storage over here, which is, the lid is surprisingly sturdy, which is really nice. I'm shocked to see that. Glove compartment there. Look at this. The original window sticker is in here. Although it doesn't show a price. I'll talk about the price in my second video, but check this out. 1999 Prelude two-door Type SH. I mean, this is super cool. This car was built entirely in Japan. So I can see why these cars are so sought after. 2227 MPG. That's probably been updated, of course, for today's modern re-rating system of the EPA. But I mean, you have to be super impressed. This interior is still really roomy. It's still really spacious. And I'm just gobsmacked at how clean it is. Even the carpet is very high quality plush. It's a plush, high quality carpet, which you don't even find in a lot of Honda's modern cars today. Preludes, of course, did come with a back seat. If you want to get into that back seat, you just pull that lever there. It kind of pushes the seat forward. As you can see, it's just a 2+2 arrangement, and the legroom back here is pretty tight. Materials, it's all hard touch plastic. It's kind of a Spartan back seat, but you don't buy a Prelude, of course, for a big back seat. But this was, of course, bigger than what you got in the Civic. The Accord Coupe really started to replace this car, especially in 2001 when they discontinued the Prelude. So obviously, guys, it's not every day that I get to drive around in a 1999 Prelude Type SH that's been sitting in a time capsule at Honda's museum. So I figured I would show you guys just a quick overview on the condition of this thing. As you can see, it's in immaculate shape. And I bet there's a lot of people watching this video right now that basically is telling Honda, shut up and take my money, because this car, if Honda decided to put it on Bring a Trailer, I would imagine it's gonna bring in at least $30,000. And I imagine there's probably a few people out there that would pay it or pay even more, because trying to find a Type SH that's unmolested, that's untrashed, that's in immaculate shape is near impossible. It's amazing to me how a car that's over 20 years old has actually appreciated in value. So if you guys were one of the lucky enough ones to buy one of these and keep it, you've got a rare gem on your hands. And if you guys have always wanted one of these things, stay tuned to watch my actual full review of this thing, because I've actually never driven one. I still haven't driven this car yet on the road as of this filming. So in the second video, we're gonna go for a drive. We're gonna talk about my thoughts on the Prelude, and maybe even talk about, should Honda bring the Prelude back? I really think they should, especially since they just discontinued a couple years ago the Accord Coupe, and the Civic Coupe was also discontinued. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video on this beautiful conditioned 1999 Honda Prelude Type SH. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.
With adaptive cruise control, once you engage it and set the follow distance, you're good to go. And with selectable drive modes,
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. On today's Redline vlog style review, I've got the newest member of the Cadillac sedan family. Meet, right behind me, the 2020 CT4. Now, if the CT4 name sounds unfamiliar to you, that's because this is a replacement for the old ATS. So this is an all-new model this year. And I actually really liked the ATS. Cadillac says this new CT4 has a new mission. It rides on a modified platform. It has completely new powertrains. It has a new look on the inside especially. And really, Cadillac wants you to know that they are trying to learn from their mistakes, because this thing goes head-to-head with the front-wheel drive offerings like the Mercedes-Benz A-Class, the Audi A3, and the BMW 2 Series Grand Coupe. So now that I've got this latest premium luxury version equipped with the optional 2.7-liter turbocharged engine, I'm gonna see what Cadillac has done to the CT4 and if they're finally ready to take on the Germans. So at a glance, the CT4 really doesn't look that much different from the old ATS. In fact, it has the familiar design elements that we know from Cadillac nowadays, although it really just looks like a shrunken version of the CT6, which, by the way, the CT4 is the smallest sedan. There's also a CT5, which I'll be reviewing later on this year, that's designed to replace the CTS. So again, Cadillac is completely changing the naming scheme of their sedans, but they still have similar missions. Now, as you can see, The styling of the CT4, this one here is the premium luxury trim, so it's one grade above the base, which is a luxury. They also offer a sport and a V series, which you don't want to confuse it with the ATS V, because there'll be another version, a CT4 Blackwing, that'll replace that. Now this one here, painted in black raven, is definitely an attractive looking sedan. If you guys like what Cadillac is doing with their styling elements here, it's taking a lot of design cues here from the Escala concept that they showed a few years ago. It definitely will look a little bit different. It has a very distinctive American look. As you can see, full LED headlights are standard equipment across all the grades. If you want to spend $400, Cadillac will sell you an upgraded LED that will replace those incandescent turn signals with a full LED light strip there that will change over from the LED daytime running light, which are those vertical running LEDs. The grille has a different finish depending on whether you go for the premium luxury or the sport or the V series. The chrome that you see will be blacked out on the sport trim, and then of course the lower front fascia will have bigger air intakes. These are pretty fake here on the premium luxury trim. But overall, I think the CT4's design is distinctively Cadillac. It just doesn't really stand out in the way that some of the other European entries, look. I mean, I do like how this car is rear-wheel drive. It still rides on the Alpha platform, which is the same platform that underpins the Chevrolet Camaro. And remember, everyone else in this segment is front-wheel drive, where this car remains rear-wheel drive. Now, Cadillac offers a choice between an 18 or a 19-inch wheel. These are the 18-inch wheels. They're $600 extra. If you'd like, you can also spend $2,300 to get 19-inch wheels. They're wrapped in 235 tires. And just like the ATS, this rides on the same 109-inch wheelbase. However, its overall length has been stretched by about 4.5 inches to 187 inches long. So this is one of the longest sedans in the segment, roughly 7 inches longer than the new Mercedes-Benz A-Class. Now, as you can see, my tester does not have a sunroof. It's like another $1,000 if you want a sunroof, but a pano sunroof is not available. Some of the competitors do offer that. And definitely this car looks bigger than most of its competitors. It may actually be even too big. Some of you may prefer the smaller size of the A-Class, but at least this car has the classic rear drive proportions. You can also, of course, get all-wheel drive. The one thing I hate about all these modern Cadillacs is this stupid 450T or 350T badge. That is the torque output in Newton meters, which is funny because this car actually has 472 Newton meters of torque because I have the optional 2.7-liter turbo engine, which we'll talk about in just a moment. I'm not the biggest fan of the rear styling of this car. I think the front looks better. I don't like the way the taillights look. It just kind of looks like it has like a big forehead with the way the trunk lid is styled into it. It's got these nicely integrated dual chrome exhaust tips. If you guys go for the V series, you'll have a quad outlet exhaust, which is nice. And then the trunk itself, when you open it, you get around 10.5 cubic feet of space, which is not a lot. You do have these hinges that crush onto your cargo, but it does have roughly the same cargo capacity as the A-Class sedan. Now, underneath the hood of the latest Cadillac CT4, it does only come with an all 4-cylinder engine lineup, just like most of its competitors. Cadillac has dropped the old 3.6-liter V6 in the previous generation ATS. Now, I do want to note that my tester actually has struts that hold up the hood. If you guys go for the base engine, you will get a prop rod, so that's something to keep in mind. However, what you're looking at is a rather interesting engine because this is the largest displacement engine you're going to find in the segment ever. It's a 2.7-liter, that's right, a 2.7-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder with direct injection. This is the same engine that we find in something like the new Chevrolet Silverado or GMC Sierra. So this is a truck engine in a luxury sports sedan. That's rather interesting, but we'll talk about that later as we go into the driving scene. It makes 310 horsepower in the premium luxury and 350 pound-feet of torque. That torque figure is exactly why Cadillac decided to replace the V6 with this turbocharged 4-cylinder. Now, it's also got an interesting technology where Cadillac says it's a dual volant turbo. I'm probably mispronouncing that word. Basically, what it means is it has a twin-scroll turbocharger technology design. It's a completely new technology, at least that's what Cadillac says in this particular segment. It makes pretty good numbers. Now, of course, if you guys go for the CT4 V series, you'll get this same engine, but with more power, 325 and 380 pound-feet of torque. The base 2-liter turbo engine offers 237 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. This engine is a $2,500 option in the premium luxury, standard on the V series. If you guys want the sport, it only comes with the 2-liter turbo, which I haven't yet driven. This engine is paired with a 10-speed automatic transmission. If you guys go for the base 2-liter, it has an 8-speed auto. And like I said, rear-wheel drive is going to be standard. All-wheel drive is between a $2,600 to $3,200 option, depending on the trim level. My tester here is a rear drive model. And if you guys go for a V Series, you'll also get a limited slip differential if you guys go for the rear drive model. Now, fuel economy is rated to get on this particular engine 20 in the city, 30 on the highway. With all-wheel drive, it drops the highway rating by about 2 mpg. Premium gas is recommended for this engine, and for the base engine, as this car sits, it weighs a tick under 3,500 pounds. So obviously Cadillac didn't take too many risks with the exterior of the CT4, but what about the interior? For a luxury car, that's often the deciding factor for a lot of people, and I'll be honest, the ATS didn't really have that nice of an interior. The gauges, the touch-sensitive controls, they were a mess, so let's see if Cadillac has learned from the mistakes of that vehicle. Now, stepping inside and first looking at the CT4, you can see a lot of the touch-sensitive buttons have been replaced with actual hard buttons, so they're learning something there. But overall, the cabin doesn't really look like it takes any risk. It's very plain Jane in here, still relatively high quality for the segment, but it just doesn't wow me the way some competitors would, especially that new Mercedes-Benz A-Class. Now, getting inside and shutting the door has a relatively solid sounding thunk. This is still the same Alpha platform, which is nice. And then here's the key fob for the CT4. You can see it's a new key. This is actually the same key that I saw on the Chevrolet Corvette, the new Vet, so GM is going to be obviously cycling this key down to all their other models. They do have remote start on this key fob as well, which is nice to start the vehicle up. Button to start it up is right there. And I have to say, I did not like the way that 4-cylinder sounded when it started up. It kind of has a really truckish, agricultural noise to it. I have to say, button to start it up is right there. And I have to say, I did not like the way that 4-cylinder sounded when it started up. It kind of has a really truckish, agricultural noise to it. It definitely reminds you that this is a 4-cylinder, which is pretty disappointing, but remember, this is the CT4. Cadillac has a V6 that you can get in the CT5, which I'll be doing for a different review. Now, in terms of the materials in here, you can see Cadillac started a theme called the cut and sewn interior a few years ago, and it carries on in the CT4. You can see there's some faux stitching on the dash. This is a soft touch injection molded plastic. It kind of carries over onto the instrument panel hood. Over here, it is slightly padded, but it also feels a little bit harder plastic. And then on the door panels here, you have more of that faux stitching, a soft padded injection molded plastic panel there. It's nice and padded over here. This is real leather. The windows are one-touch automatic for the front. However, they are not the case for the rear, just auto down, but not auto up. Down here on the lower part, you can see it's hard touch plastic, and the window switches, they feel relatively high quality. GM in general has been upgrading things overall throughout the years. This door handle looks pretty much the same as the last ATS or CTS that I sat in. The steering wheel, you can see it's a new steering wheel design. It has paddles on the wheel, the traditional GM buttons. My tester is missing the full driver assistance package, so it doesn't have adaptive cruise control, which is why it has some empty buttons over there. The gauges definitely are a huge improvement over the gauges you found in the ATS with that cheap looking font. However, for a luxury car, these gauges look like they were pulled off of a Chevrolet Equinox or something like that. You have a 3.5-inch helper screen with another LCD at the top over there. Why didn't Cadillac just give me a full-on digital display? Now, I understand this is at the bottom of the Cadillac totem pole. The new Escalade has a completely all-digital dash, which I'll be showing you guys, of course, later this year. But this is an improvement, but it still doesn't wow me the way that most traditional luxury cars would. The steering wheel itself is a tilt and telescoping design. Manual, of course. It offers a rather narrow range of adjustability, so again, try it to see if you can get comfortable in this car. Traditional GM stocks there for the headlights and, of course, and for the wiper controls. Over here on the center stack, you can see you've got an 8-inch touchscreen display. This is the latest version of the Cadillac user interface. They don't call it Q anymore, I don't believe, which Q, as you guys know, was just awful over the years. It does include standard Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, of course, which is definitely nice to have. Wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, however, is not included, so I'm a little sad to see that they haven't included that in there. But as you can see here, once you pull up the CarPlay, once I unlocked my phone, the screen looks pretty nice. Obviously, you have Waze integration, Google Maps integration, so this is a pretty nice system, although the graphics, you can see, look a little bit different when you have it in the CarPlay screen. If you'd like, hit the home button there. That goes back to the factory system. This is the embedded factory GPS in this car, which GM has really been good at updating this. It's a little slow to set up, but as you can see, once you get it set up, it looks okay. It also works a lot quicker than the older system. But you can see there's still somewhat of a lag over here. The audio information, you can see you've got your presets over there. You can all choose from your different sources and whatnot. They're also down here. You can also go to climate. If you go back to the home, you can see there's a settings page. It has a Wi-Fi hotspot in here, which is nice when you put the car into reverse. No 360 camera, but a decent resolution backup camera. It does have parking sensors and of course trajectory, which is nice. But again, some competitors go a step above this. So this screen here does look a little bit small at 8 inches. Cadillac says that a bigger screen is on the way. I would expect this to be at least like 10 inches at this time. That's what most of the competitors have gone to. Now, the one thing I really appreciate, volume knob and tuning knob over here, which is nice, although my OCD is telling me that they should have put the tuning knob over here, so it kind of had a more symmetrical look to it. You have traditional buttons, of course, for the AC system, or the climate control, dual zone, of course. My tester has heated and cooled seats, which is very nice. That is, of course, optional. You must get an upgraded package to get that. Wireless phone charger, of course, is included, and this electronic shifter controls the 10-speed automatic, which there's an unlock button here. You pull back to go to drive, push it forward to go to reverse, of course, and then push the P button to go into park. Pretty simple. If you don't want to use the touchscreen, you can also use this little dial wheel here, but I imagine most of you will probably use the touchscreen. You can also turn up the volume from here. You can, seek. You can also use all the shortcut buttons. There's nice cup holders over here, and then your drive mode selector is over here. Now, of course, Cadillac offers a choice between Touring, My Mode, Sport, Snow, and Ice. And then if you guys go for the V Series, there's also a track mode, or like a V mode as well. I'll primarily drive this car in Sport mode and Touring mode. That's what most owners, I imagine, will probably drive it in. You also have some more of that faux stitching on the center console over here. There's like another area right here where you could probably store your phone. A nice center console area here too with some good storage. You've got 2 USB ports over there, a regular USB and a USB-C, an SD card reader for, of course, the navigation system. Over here you can see the glove compartment. It's actually pretty big. It's damped and it's lined with felt. Pretty good storage for a luxury car. And these seats, I think the leather could be a little bit softer. It actually is pretty soft on the headrest, but over here it just feels a little bit too hard. The seats themselves also don't look all that special. They look like they were pulled off of a Malibu, and I don't know why the head restraints are so massively huge. I'd probably just go for a different color. The black on black theme is just a little bit, too dark in here for my taste. But overall, the cabin is an improvement over the ATS, especially in terms of technology and in terms of just the way it looks, but it just doesn't stand out, and I think Cadillac was playing it a little too safe in this car. But the interior space is at least decent, but let me hop into the back seats and see how that compares. Now, in the back seat of the CT4, the ATS had one of the most cramped rear seat areas in the segment. You don't buy a car like this to get a big back seat. So let's see if Cadillac has addressed that problem in the CT4. Let me get back here really quick and see. I'm only 5'7", so I'm not incredibly tall. I have to duck my head, holy crap, a lot to get back here, so that's kind of annoying. But once I'm back here, you can see the space is pretty tight. Cadillac says you only get around 33 inches of legroom back here, which is about 2 inches less than most of the competitors. A Honda Civic offers more legroom back here. You can see there's a massive drive hump tunnel over there. Let me shut the door. At least the materials are kind of carried through here, which is all very nice. You have 2 map pockets over here, rear seat air vents, an actual power outlet, but no USB ports back here. But because of this car is a rear drive platform, you can see space is compromised. It has more than the ATS, but this is a lot less than most of the competitors. Now, when you fold this down, you can see there's an armrest with 2 cup holders, and I forgot to mention in the front, my tester has the optional 11-speaker Bose premium sound, which sounds pretty good, but it doesn't sound quite as nice as the Burmester and the Harman Kardon systems that I've tested in some of the German offerings. So to start off the driving scene for the CT4, let me first go on record and remind you guys, I loved the way the ATS drove. This is essentially the same platform. It's about 4.5 inches longer. The base 2-liter remains, but now instead of that 3.6-liter naturally aspirated V6, we've got this 2.7-liter 4-cylinder. That's a big engine, a big displacement engine for a 4-banger. it definitely has me super confused. It comes out of the Chevrolet Silverado, as I said. So let's kick this off in the driving scene here. I'll leave the transmission in drive. Obviously, we'll put it over into sport setting here. Let's put our foot down and see how quick this thing feels. Cadillac says 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. Wow, this thing is quick. It is quick, and it's got a quick shifting 10-speed automatic as well. 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, I might believe that. It even tells you when there's when you're driving aggressively, it says performance shift active. That's very much a GM thing. That's what I first saw on the Chevrolet Corvette and a C7 Vet. This thing definitely feels quick. The one thing I don't like about this engine is the sound. Cadillac is creating a fake noise through the speaker system in this car, and it's amplified in sport right now, and I don't like the noise. You can also use the paddle shifters, and it just sounds terrible. It has a very low redline too, at only 6,000 RPM, because this engine is tuned all for torque. It's got all the mid-range torque, and that's essentially why they went with this engine, because it's quicker, it has way more torque. It gets better gas mileage than the V6, which the V6 was a screamer. It liked to rev, but it didn't have very much torque. It felt very soft below, 4,000 RPM. So that's the reason why Cadillac decided to go with this 4-cylinder model. The 10-speed is an improvement. Especially when the ATS first came out, it had a 6-speed auto, which was awful. And then they switched to the 8-speed, which they still offer the 8-speed and the 2-liter. But this engine it's really thrashy sounding. You don't want to push this engine because it just sounds terrible. It's just so loud. Now, the rest of the chassis for the CT4 is actually really good. Remember, this is the Alpha platform, which is the same platform that underpins the Camaro. I will say that this car's steering doesn't feel quite as talkative as the old ATS. It's still quick and precise, but the front tires are they're not really telling me exactly what they're doing, which is a little annoying. But I have the rear drive model. Let me just see if I can let me just try another acceleration run in this thing. I'll turn off the traction control. It's got start stop. We'll just put our foot down here. You can really feel the power tapers off above 5,000 RPM. So you don't want to push this engine because it just doesn't have any more guts after 5,000 RPM. Where it really likes to live is between 3 to around 4,500 RPM. It doesn't like to rev. It doesn't give me the characteristics of a performance luxury sports sedan. And that's kind of why I don't know why GM or Cadillac went with a 2.7, but it is quick. Now, is it quicker than the last CLA 35 that I drove? No, this is actually a little slower. If you guys go for the CT4 V Series, that has another 15 horsepower over this and like 30 more pound-feet of torque. Cadillac says that'll do it in 4.8 seconds. So it is definitely a quick car, but remember, this has a little bit more weight. It's bigger than a lot of its rivals. But with that rear drive dynamic, the handling of the CT4 is markedly improved over, the A-Class or the A3. I haven't driven the 2 Series Grand Coupe just yet. This is probably one of the best handling in the front-wheel drive luxury compact sports sedan segment. The problem is it's a Cadillac, and Cadillacs just don't sell very well in terms of sedans because nobody really knows to look at Cadillac. So yes, I applaud Cadillac for giving us this amazing chassis, continuing to give us this amazing chassis, making improvements to the steering or to the suspension, which, by the way, this thing rides very well, to the transmission, to the way how quick acceleration this thing is. I would really like to try out the V Series, which has upgraded suspension, stiffer shocks. It's got a limited slip differential. The premium luxury that I'm driving now is definitely tuned more for comfort, but the fact that this is the softer version, it still handles extremely well, is pretty impressive. Just be sure to turn off the sound amplification because the engine just sounds terrible. I keep saying that because it just doesn't befit this car as a luxury sports sedan. It just doesn't befit it. Now, in terms of visibility, the CT4 is really easy to see out of. It doesn't have, big blind spots, anything like that. It's got a decent sized side mirror. I'm annoyed that the driver assistance stuff is still optional. Even my tester has a driver awareness package for $800 that includes blind spot monitoring with a cross traffic alert, which should be standard. I have no adaptive cruise control in this car, which should be standard. Super Cruise, Cadillac's full self-driving, which is almost at level 3 autonomy, not available on this car, but it's coming. Cadillac says. They said it was supposed to be here this year, but I imagine with COVID, it's probably been delayed till next year. So there's a lot of technology in this car that Cadillac has left on the table, which is frustrating. But the CT4 is still a really nice driving sports sedan that feels well planted, that has a good ride quality, that's relatively quiet in here, that has quick steering, although it needs to talk to me a little bit more. And relatively comfortable seats, although the leather could be a little softer. There's just something about this car that doesn't really stand out for me. The interior is not really any nicer than like a Honda Accord or a Mazda 6, although the infotainment system is a little bit better. The styling on the outside is pretty, it's Cadillac, but it's also kind of boring a little bit. And I'm super confused with their naming scheme and that stupid 450T badge on the back. I would rip it off. That's the first thing I would do if I owned this car. It's just completely unnecessary. But overall, it's still a pleasant driving sedan. And in terms of fuel economy, in my week's worth of testing, I averaged around 24 mpg in this thing, which is not bad. Because the engine is so torquey, you don't have to push the engine that hard, so it does get better gas mileage than the V6. Premium, of course, is recommended. This is a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. But really, if you must have a Cadillac, the CT4 is worth a look. It just doesn't wow me. It doesn't stand out in a way that the A-Class or CLA Mercedes does for about the same money. Try that in your front-wheel drive Mercedes. So earlier this year, when Cadillac first unveiled the CT4, I'll have to admit, I wasn't really too excited about it on paper. It just looked more like a lukewarm refresh of the ATS, because it still rides on the same platform. It has a barely different look. I'm not entirely sure the look is actually an improvement, but after spending some time driving this particular one here, this is the 450T Premium Luxury, so it has the optional 2.7-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. I'm impressed with the engine. I think the engine is quick, but I don't like the sound of it. I think the 10-speed transmission is an improvement. I think the interior looks nicer, but I don't think that they pushed the envelope just far enough, especially when you look at the styling. This car just kind of looks like another rental car that you could find at the rental counter, of course, which is not good for Cadillac, because Cadillac is supposed to be known as the standard of the world. That's what they're trying to get back with a lot of their new products. And now I haven't driven the new CT5, which I should be driving in the next 2 weeks or so, but I have to say the CT4 is a better ATS, but I just don't think that Cadillac has pushed it farther. I mean, it rides and handles nice. I like the fact that it's rear-wheel drive, but it just doesn't stand out for me enough compared to the new A-Class, compared to the BMW 2 Series Grand Coupe, which I should be driving again later next month, and even the old Audi S3. This competes with an Audi S3, and I would still go for that car, even though it's older. It's about to be replaced with an all-new model. Now, speaking of which, if you guys must have the Cadillac, it is not a bad car, and it is, remember, rear-wheel drive, which allows you to do those rear drive shenanigans and get the tail out. What's it going to cost if you guys want to buy one of these things? Well, the CT4 starts at around $33,900, which is right in line with most of its competitors. If you guys want all-wheel drive, remember it's around $2,500 to $3,200 extra. Now, my tester here, the premium luxury model starts at around $40,000, especially with the 2.7-liter engine, which is a $2,500 option. Now, of course, my tester here with some extra options on it, on the interior, like the upgraded interior system, the upgraded sound system, the heated and cooled seats, the Bose premium sound system, as I mentioned earlier, the navigation. This one here stickers for around just under $45,000, which seems pretty reasonable, but keep in mind, if you guys go for a V Series with all the bells and whistles, because this one here is missing a sunroof still, it's gonna cost you closer to the mid $50,000 range, and I think at that price, you should probably just be better off going with the Germans, or even like a Tesla Model 3. This car also competes with the Model 3, which again has really changed the way we look at the premium compact luxury sports sedan segment. So Cadillac, you still have have a little playing up, a little catch up to do, and it really has shown how far lost they've become. They're trying to find their way back. The CT4 could be a good start, but I just think that they need to push the envelope a little further to help this thing stand out more in this very competitive segment. With all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2020 Cadillac CT4. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.
When I switched from my Yukon to my Expedition, the trailer backup assist made road trips
Tahoe and Suburban nameplate is one of the longest running names here in America. In fact, over the last 2 decades, it quickly became the best-selling full-size 3-row family SUV that you could buy. For 2021, Chevy has given the Tahoe and Suburban a complete overhaul. It's now riding on a completely new platform. It has, for the first time ever, a fully independent rear suspension with an available air suspension. And Chevy has completely redesigned the exterior and interior to bring this thing into the modern 21st century era. So this week, as you can see, Chevrolet has sent me a 2021 Tahoe Z71, an all-new off-road oriented trim. So the big question I want answered, has Chevrolet managed to completely and successfully reinvent the Tahoe? That's what we're here to find out. Before we get started on the walk around for the 2021 Tahoe, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, Vincero Watches. Now, I've been working with them for quite some time, and they're actually having a huge sale to celebrate their 6-year anniversary, the biggest sale in their 6-year history. They're offering up to 30% off. All you have to do is use the code word Redline Sale, and that discount will be automatically applied at checkout. Now, in this video, they gave me 2 new products to show you guys. This is a new watch called the Apex Black and Silver. As you can see, just like all their other watches that I've showed you, it's covered in a crystal sapphire glass, so it's scratch resistant and water resistant. And Vincero watches are pretty much known for offering a bold, timeless design that looks a lot more expensive than its price would suggest. Now, another item they also sent me, you guys have always been about those hideous white sunglasses that I keep wearing. And as you can see, they sent me a really nice pair of sunglasses. This is called the Villa. They have polarized lenses, and Vincero constantly tells me that these sunglasses are always sold out. So if you're interested in picking up either the sunglasses or the watches, be sure to click on the link in the description below, use that code word Redline Sale, and your 30% discount will automatically be applied at checkout. But finally, let's move on to the walk around for the 2021 Tahoe, because this thing seriously has a bold look. Now, when I first saw the Tahoe last year, I wasn't the biggest fan of the design, especially the Z71 off-road model, because Chevrolet showed it off in a white color where they gave it a black front fascia. But this one here, painted in all black, looks really damn aggressive. I think the styling of this thing is probably my favorite, but in the right color. Now, of course, Chevy offers a choice of 6 different trims, starting from the base LS all the way up to the high country. The Z71 is the off-road oriented model. You can see the front fascia is completely unique for this specific trim level. The first thing you're going to notice, the grille is a lot bigger and bolder. It has black painted accents, a black bow tie emblem, a Z71 badge in the center. Full LED headlights are going to be standard equipment across all the trim levels of the Tahoe, which is a huge upgrade from the previous generation, which only had a bi-xenon or halogens. You have an LED daytime running light, which is kind of like a C shape. You also have an LED turn signal. There are no fog lights for this generation. Chevrolet used to offer that on the previous generation, which were a halogen fog light. But you can see the off-road model also gives you skid plates. It gives you a different front fascia that improves the approach angle, and you also get those red recovery tow hooks, because as you know, when you guys are off-roading, you need to have stuff like that. Chevy also says that the ground clearance of the Z71 package model gives you around 8 inches, or if you have the optional air suspension like my tester, it can raise that up to about 10 inches. So this is designed for some serious off-roading. And let me know in the comments below if you guys like the look. In this all black color, I really think this looks great. Remember, the other trims will have a lot more chrome on the front fascia, and chrome's not really my cup of tea, so kind of keep that in mind. Now, looking at the side profile, this is now riding on the same platform as the all-new Silverado, and that means that the new Tahoe is significantly larger. It's actually now around the same size as the current Ford Expedition. They stretched the wheelbase by around 5 inches, and the overall length has been stretched by around 4 inches. So at 210 inches long, this is now the same size as the Expedition, and Chevy really gave us all of the additional space on the interior. They say that they have 30% more interior space, which we'll talk about later on, because this really improves the usability as a family car. Now, of course, there's a choice between an 18-inch wheel going all the way up to a 22-inch wheel. This Z71 package that I'm showing you has the 20-inch wheels wearing all-terrain Goodyear Wrangler tires. I think the wheels look great. I actually prefer these over the chromy and flashy 22s that you get on the other trim level models. They're wrapped in 275 wide by 60 series tires, and these tires are designed, of course, for some serious off-roading. And of course, as well, the big story for this generation is they finally moved over to an independent rear suspension. Finally, Chevy, it took them an additional like 15 years versus Ford and Toyota to finally give us an independent rear suspension, and it also has a segment-first air suspension. Now, of course, you're going to have to exclude the other GM vehicles because the Yukon and the Escalade is going to offer that same adjustable air suspension, which can give you up to 10 inches of ground clearance. Now, at the rear, you can see the Tahoe has a unique look, especially when you compare it to the Yukon and the Escalade. You have an LED combination rear taillight here. The turn signal is surprisingly an incandescent. I like the black bow tie emblem and the blacked out accents here. And then down here, you can see the rear bumper. There is no visible exhaust. The Z71 package takes that away. If you guys go for the other trims, Chevrolet gives you a nice looking polished quad outlet system, which really makes this thing look a lot more sporty. Of course, that would get in the way if you guys are planning to off-road in this vehicle. Now, another new design feature, as you can see, the rear wiper on all the previous generation Tahoes was always down here. It just looked really tacky and stuck on. Now they've hidden the rear wiper underneath the rear spoiler here, which they kind of took that from Ford and Toyota, I believe. So bravo Chevrolet, it took them a few years, but at least they finally kind of cleaned up the rear end design. And this rear window still also opens up separately if you guys don't want to open up the entire tailgate. But if you do open up the entire tailgate, all of the models will come standard with a power rear liftgate. This one here has the foot-activated hands-free function. And as you can see, look at the cargo area. Because of that lower floor, they were able to lower it by about 5 inches. You get around 25.5 cubic feet of space. That's roughly 10 more than what you got in the previous generation. And as you can see, third row seat is standard. If you want to fold down these seats, it is a power folding third row, just like the previous generation. If you fold down those third row seats, you get around 73 cubic feet of space. Fold down everything, which Chevy says it now gives you a completely flat floor, and you get around 123 cubic feet of space. That's 30% more than the previous generation. And really, there's very little reason to choose a Suburban unless you really need more space in the back, which the Suburban got a little bit bigger, but it didn't quite get the biggest stretch like the Tahoe did. So obviously the exterior of the 2021 Tahoe has been completely redesigned, but what about the interior? This is probably the more important aspect when you're talking about a family car like this. And this particular one here with the Z71 package is a black on black combination, which isn't the best for camera, but it does look very nice. And the interior itself has been hugely upgraded from the previous generation Tahoe. Now, first getting inside, you can see the interior is way different as well from the Silverado in which this thing is based. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see this Silverado eventually get this updated cabin. It's just a much nicer place to spend time. There's even a new key fob for the Tahoe and Suburban. I imagine this key fob will make its way into other Chevrolet models. There's 6 buttons on this thing because you can activate the remote start, you can open up the liftgate or just the rear glass separately, which is a nice touch. When I get into the vehicle and shut the door, it has a relatively solid sounding thunk, which is definitely a nice impression of quality. Starting the car up, the engine start button is back here. You can see the gauges do a nice sweep. That traditional GM bong has been replaced with a much more softer sounding ding. My tester doesn't have the big 15-inch head-up display, but it does have, of course, the automatic emergency braking and forward collision alert. This massive 10.2-inch screen is actually standard on every trim level, which is really nice. Wireless Android Auto and CarPlay is also included. As you can see, my phone is automatically connected. It all looks very nice. Chevrolet, this is Chevrolet Infotainment 3, has really been upgraded upgrading their system over the years. You get an 8-inch display that's reconfigurable, of course. In the center over here, where you can put your navigation, your music information, go into your settings, go into a home display, or just show your trip computer information, which is, of course, all very...
I think the Expedition was made for someone similar to me. It's not just made for professionals. It's not just made for a soccer mom. It's for everything in between. That was not the same in my Tahoe.
Get a total bonus of $2,000 on a new 2020 Tacoma Special Edition. Toyota, let's go places.
Very nice. In terms of the materials, this is a very expensive truck, so how does this thing compare? Now, this is not the fully loaded high country model. It's the Z71 package, which gives you the off-road stuff, and I really wish that there was some contrasting stitching in here. If you guys want like red contrasting stitching, Chevrolet offers an RST version, a trim that gives you that red contrast stitching. Here I have got some gray-white contrast stitching, which looks fine, but it's just not quite as noticeable. The materials have been upgraded from the previous generation. You can see it's a complete soft touch injection molded plastic. You have some faux stitching, of course, on the upper part of the dash. You have this fake wood grain trim. You have some aluminum look plastic trim, more of that stitching on the lower part of the dash. It's a very nice looking dash layout. I really like the way the dash looks. The door panels also have a soft touch injection molded plastic with that faux stitching. Real leather, of course, over here where you'd rest your elbow. Down here it's hard touch plastic, which is what I expected. Window controls up and down automatic for the front windows. For the rear, it's just automatic down, but not automatic up. The window controls, these are the latest stuff that Chevrolet uses. It all is very high quality stuff. You have a nice metal accented door handle here, which is nice. You have 2-person memory, of course, on the driver's side, which is good. These seats, by the way, are a 10-way power adjustment for the driver and the front passenger. The seats themselves don't look like much, but they are comfortable and supportive. They really will support wide Americans, especially if you guys are of a wider frame, so that's all very nice. Lots of buttons over here on the left side of the dash. This particular one here is 4-wheel drive, obviously because it's the Z71 package, and my tester has the optional air suspension, the 4-corner air suspension. So if I push this button here, you can see it gives me 4 different levels to choose from. If you want to go to a maximum ground clearance, you have to put it into 4 low, but it's pretty cool. When I put it into the increased ground clearance, you can see the vehicle starts raising up immediately, and it actually will add about 2 more inches of ground clearance for a total of 10 inches of ground clearance, which is nice. The 4-wheel drive system also has an automatic mode, and you can also put it into 4 low. Headlight controls are down here. The steering wheel, you can see it's the new steering wheel on a lot of Chevy products. I like how the Z71 package gives you the black bow tie emblem. Looks nice. My tester has the preferred package that gives you the power tilt and telescoping steering wheel, although I will say the wheel doesn't come out far enough for me, and they don't have the power adjustable pedals anymore on this car, which would have been nice because I feel like the pedals are too close for me. I have to push the seat back, and then the steering wheel doesn't come out far enough. So try the driving position out, see if that works for you. My tester is also missing the rear view camera display. This is not available on the Z71 package. Instead, you have to go for the Premier or the High Country model to get that, of course. I like the new dash layout here with the vents. You have this push button transmission selector, which is controversial. Park is a button over here. Reverse, you pull up on this little switch, which when you do that, Chevrolet gives you a really good backup camera. I'm really impressed with GM, how they've been upgrading the resolution. They offer up to 9 different views. 9 different views, and their trailering app from the Silverado has made its way into this vehicle. So it really helps with just overall parking, with hooking up a trailer. I mean, check out that resolution. Bravo GM for finally upgrading the technology in your car, so I'm really happy about that. Push to go to neutral, pull this up to go into drive, of course, and then there's also a low setting, which you can access a manual mode by pushing these buttons over here to give you full control of the 10-speed automatic transmission. Now, as you can see, wireless CarPlay is right here. It's all very quick, it's very snappy. Love the ways it really shows a lot over here, which is fantastic. If you want to go back to the Chevy display, you have to push the home button down here, which, by the way, there are some more buttons over here and knobs for the dual zone climate control. You have heated seats, 3 levels. If you guys are looking for cooled seats, you have to go to the Premier trim. It's standard on that, standard on the High Country as well. If you want the cooled seats, I wish that they would offer it on the Z71 package. This is a wireless charger down here, which is great. You just set your phone in there. It's not buried somewhere. 2 cup holders over here. Going to the home display here, you can see my tester does have the embedded GPS. You can see this is the Chevrolet GPS, which does work fairly well. It's paired together with the rear seat entertainment package, which I'll show you guys when we go into the back seat. This is essentially, you know, an upgraded system what GM's been using over the years. It does work fairly nicely. So GM's been working hard at this. Lots of different apps. There's the trailering app that I mentioned. There's the rear media. You can also just access the camera system, and then it's got its own built-in apps as well if you guys don't want to use the Apple CarPlay. I like the size of this. 10.25 inches is a good size. Chevy says this is the biggest screen in the industry, although I wouldn't be surprised if Ford or somebody else trumps them in the next couple of years. Everybody's been going to bigger screens. There's also a new option this year where they give you this motorized center console that'll move back. It'll extend back about 10 inches. My tester doesn't have it. It's a late availability, but it's power. It does look fairly cool. Instead, when you don't have it, you have a massive center console here, which isn't very deep, but it's very wide. You can easily hide whatever you'd like there. You can see all my camera equipment even fit there. The wireless headphones for the rear seat entertainment also fits nicely in there. They used to put the wireless charger here, so I kind of happy that Chevy moved it down there. It's a better place for it. You have cup holders here and cup holders here, as I mentioned. Above me, I like the fact that Chevy gives you a panoramic sunroof, which the shade itself, you can see, it's a pretty big sunroof. This is optional. It's a $1,500 option to get this Pano sunroof. You can also adjust the rear power liftgate on how large you like to open it. And Chevy also added this new feature where I can fold down the rear seats back here. The third row seat, I can fold it down from back here or from up here. So that's really nice if you guys, you know, have somebody trying to put something in the back. You can fold it down, and you can also fold the seat up. I've never seen that before in the industry. Usually they give you the option to fold the seat down, but not to put the seat back up. So I think that's a really cool feature. A lot of other manufacturers need to start offering that as a nice touch. There's a nice little storage cubby over here, which when you push this little silver button, it opens up, and it's a great place to hide your hand sanitizer, especially in today's world with the pandemic we have going on. It's a really deep storage, actually. It's a cool place where you could hide your drug money as well if you guys don't have any hand sanitizer. Opening this up, you can see pretty decent sized glove compartment. It's damped but not lined with felt. But really, I'm just super impressed with this interior. It doesn't, it's a very nice place to spend time. It has lots of tech. It's very roomy in here. It doesn't feel like, a $70,000+ SUV, but obviously Chevy had to save some things for the higher end, or GM had to save it for Cadillac, which I haven't driven the new Escalade yet, but for just a Chevy Tahoe, this interior is much better versus the previous generation. Now, the biggest improvement that Chevrolet did this year by switching to an independent rear suspension is the interior in the second and the third row. Now, I'm going to start off with the second row because they were able to add around 3 inches of additional legroom back here to give us a total of around 42 inches combined in the second row. And you also have a sliding and reclining second row seats, which, by the way, they move the lever to the side here, so you can move the seat forward and back. You can also fold down the seat to move it out of the way. But let me get into the second row here real quick and show you the space. Now, I'm 5'7", so obviously I'm not the tallest person, but I mean, this is basically just as comfortable, if not more comfortable, versus the front seat. I love the fact how there's this big wide open space here, because this one here has the 2 captain's chairs, which does limit the seating capacity to 7. If you guys go for the bench, this will seat up to 8 people. And my tester has the optional rear seat entertainment system that's paired up with the GPS system for around $2,800. It gives you 2 12.6-inch monitors back here with 2 HDMI inputs. You have wireless headphones that are also included. This basically allows the kids to plug up whatever sources they'd like, their iPad or their video game console, and they can independently watch whatever they want here, or they can also play the music, of course, from the front, move it to the back seat. So that's a really nice feature, and I love the fact that these screens look very modern. It looks like a tablet, basically, is mounted onto the headrest. You also have features like rear seat climate control. You have 3 level heated seats, although there are no cooled seats back here, which surprised me. And then you have 2 USB-C ports back here, which is nice. The seats themselves are also very comfortable, very supportive. I also like the panoramic sunroof, which lets in a lot of light, although it does not go into the third row, which could be an issue if you guys wanted to give more light to the third row passengers. But I'm surprised also there's no rear seat manual sunshades back here. But overall, the second row is probably a better place to spend time versus the front seat of this vehicle. Now, to get back into the third row, obviously I can use this pass through to get there, or I could also just pull this lever here. You can see when I pull that lever once, the seat completely tilts down, and then when I pull it again, you can see it completely folds out of the way. So that's a really nifty feature to get back here. And the big story this year, because of that independent rear suspension, Chevy says, get this, they added 10 inches of legroom back here. 10 additional inches means I have 35 inches of legroom. This is with the seat all the way back on this side, and look at this. At 5'7", I can sit back here and be comfortable. The old Tahoe, remember, had a very high floor because of the solid axle rear suspension. Now the floor is much lower, 5 inches lower, so I get plenty of legroom. If you guys go with the Suburban, you actually get an 1.5 inches more legroom back here. So Chevy actually moved the third row seat back and gave you more cargo room. So if you need that space, go for the Suburban. But really, this is now a true 7-seater or 8-seater. I'm really happy to see that GM has finally made that change. Now, in terms of everything else, there are 2 USB-C ports back here. You do have rear seat vents, cup holders and whatnot. Materials are all hard-touch plastic, but the third row is not a bad place to spend time. Now, under the hood of the new Tahoe, you're gonna find a choice of 3 different engines. The first 2 are familiar options. They are essentially carryover from the previous generation. This is the engine that most people are gonna buy a Tahoe with. It's GM's 5.3-liter small block V8 with push rods. It does have direct injection and it has variable cylinder management. The output numbers are the same as last year, 355 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque. Now, if you guys wanna go for the high country trim, it's the only trim level to offer the big block 6.2-liter pushrod V8 that offers 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. Both engines use a GM-designed 10-speed automatic transmission. That is an upgrade of...
Hi, I'm a professional actor, and I'm getting paid to tell you about a revolutionary new product.
Mountain water.
For years, a bunch of marketing fuckboys have tricked you into thinking that water is just some girly drink for yoga moms. Just look at all the cute brand names and dainty little bottles. Well, hold on to your hot dogs, because I got news. Water isn't cute. Water is deadly. It kills innocent surfers and snowboarders and kayakers. Every year, water is responsible for thousands and thousands of deaths. Energy drinks only kill like, what, 1 or 2 kids? So please, don't fall for the marketing bullshit. Water is not yoga. Water is literally death. And that's why this brand needs to exist. To finally give water the ice-cold can and ice-cold name it deserves. A brand that parents will hate, but kids might love.
Liquid Death Mountain water.
Made from the deadliest stuff on Earth. Please, enjoy responsibly.
Of 2 gears, of course, from the previous generation. Now, later this year, Chevrolet will offer a diesel engine. That's right, it's the first diesel that we've seen in a big truck like this since, I believe, the Ford Excursion. It's been a long time. It's the company's 3-liter inline-6 turbo diesel, the one that I drove in the Silverado and the Sierra, of course. That makes 277 horsepower and up to 460 pound-feet of torque. So the same torque as the big block 6.2, and that's the one that should get the best gas mileage. Now, of course, this one's the 5.3. It's rated to tow a maximum of 8,200 pounds, which is a little bit less than what you're going to tow, and of course in the Ford Expedition. And fuel economy, it stays roughly the same this year despite the extra gears. This one here is rated at 16 in the city, 20 on the highway. The 6.2 will drop that to 15, 19, and we don't have fuel economy figures yet for the diesel inline 6. Now, the Tahoe has always been a big vehicle, and this thing as it sits weighs around 5,815 pounds. So obviously the Chevy Tahoe is an important addition in the GM lineup because this is the best selling of the 3-row large full-size SUVs that can tow heavy loads and of course carry a lot of people and stuff. The last Tahoe that I drove was a 2018 RST model with the big block 6.2. This obviously has the smaller 5.3. To get the 6.2, you have to go for the high country model, which I'll have to drive that at a later date. This 5.3 should be suffice for most people, but really the biggest thing that I'm noticing right off the bat with this redesigned Tahoe is just the improved refinement in this thing. It now has a completely, fully independent suspension, and you notice it right immediately as you drive this thing. It has a very comfortable, smooth, controlled ride. The big interior, which we talked about earlier, is a huge welcome option, and the improved driving dynamics are now an improved, welcome option. This thing is just buttery smooth. It rides just as nice, of course, as the new Expedition. It's very quiet in here. there. You have great visibility. You have this big commanding view of the road, and I can adjust the air suspension on this thing. I can raise it up 10 inches if I'd like to when I'm taking this thing off-roading. So that's also a really nice touch. No other competitor, of course I'm talking about non-GM competitors, offer that, because of course the Yukon offers it, and of course the Escalade offers it. But just going down the road here, just cruising along, the seats are comfortable. The visibility in here is also pretty good. I can see out of the front well. The side mirrors are large. I wish that the Z71 model offered adaptive cruise control. It annoys me so much that GM does not make adaptive cruise as standard. You have to stack it on top of options. Even the high country model is still extra to go for a premium package for $5 grand to get the adaptive cruise control. It's just unacceptable to me in this day and age, considering the price of this car. Come on, GM, make adaptive cruise and lane keep assist standard. It should just be standard across the board. A lot of your competitors are doing that, and it's just frustrating that you don't. Now, in terms of the handling ability, this is a truck-based SUV still, and it's not sporty by any means. In fact, there are drive modes in this car. There is a normal, sport, off-road, and a tow-haul mode. I'm going to leave it in normal mode most of the time in this thing because that's probably how you are going to drive it. The 10-speed automatic in this truck just kind of goes about its business. I mean, when I put my foot down in normal, it still is pretty responsive. Remember, this is an all-new transmission. All the engines use this 10-speed. I will be looking forward to driving this thing, of course, with the diesel 6-cylinder and, of course, the 6.2. That's the one that you're going to want to get if you guys want to get like a performance exhaust. The dealer offers that. It gives you a nice grumbly or rumbly V8 sound. But let me switch it over here to its sport mode here, and let me try the acceleration in this engine. It has that very typical small block V8 rumble. It's a little bit more muted in the 5.3. The last 6.2 that I drove in a Yukon, or not Yukon, the Sierra, definitely was much more vocal because that had the performance exhaust. But the 5.3, has 355 horsepower. This is down on power compared to something like you get in the Sequoia, even the Armada, and the base, Expedition with its 3.5 EcoBoost. So I do think that the 5.3 has sufficient power, but it feels like it gets to 60 around the 8-second mark, which is a little sluggish for me. I think that the 6.2 will probably knock that down to the low 6-second mark. Response is pretty decent, and the transmission shifts smoothly and aggressively and quick when you have it in sport mode, so it does feel faster than its numbers would suggest at times. The car also does feel big. That's something that you're always going to notice in this particular segment of vehicle, but it's just with that new suspension and the air suspension, it rides smoother than the last Expedition that I drove. Even with this Z71 package model with its special off-road wheels and tires, it has a very nice ride quality. The seats are also pretty comfortable. The transmission is super responsive. I'm impressed. This thing drives and handles extremely well. It's going to impress a lot of people, especially if you're coming from the old one with its crude, solid axle rear suspension and its cramped interior. I always hated that about the Tahoes and the Suburbans, and GM really rectified that this year. So this gets me very excited, of course, to drive the Yukon and especially the new Escalade. I really would like to try this thing out with the diesel powertrain because this gas engine is rated at 16 in the city, 20 on the highway. Decent numbers, but I only got around 16 mpg in my couple days that I've had it. On the highway, it got around 18 mpg. So you could probably do better once this thing is more broken in, if I had more time with it. But I imagine the diesel version of this should get closer to 25, maybe even 30 mpg. And that's really going to be a game changer when that model comes out. Now it's a big SUV. Let's see how it takes turns. It actually has wow, it's a very impressive turning radius. Yeah, the 5.3 is definitely a little sluggish. I would be wanting for more power in the 5.3. So my recommendation is try the 6.2, but if you want the Z71 package model, you're gonna have to settle with the 5.3 because Chevy only offers the high country version with the big 6.2, or you can also go for the Yukon, which right now GMC does not offer an AT4 version of the Yukon, or actually they just showed off an AT4, but I couldn't build it on their site, so it might be a later availability. I probably would go for that model because you can get it with the big block 6.2, or just try out the diesel. But overall, pretty impressed with the new Tahoe. Rides comfortably, great visibility, great tech. It's just a really expensive car, but again, so is the Expedition. Really anything in this class is pretty expensive. So after spending a couple of days with the all-new 2021 Tahoe, it's pretty obvious that Chevrolet has completely reinvented this thing. In fact, it took them long enough because the improvements they've made this year have seriously elevated the Tahoe to the top of the full-size three-row SUV segment. As you guys saw, its interior is cavernous, it's full of all the latest tech features, its fully independent suspension has completely re-engineered the ride quality so it rides extremely comfortably. That air suspension is a nice addition. The exterior and interior styling, of course, is different, but it also is still recognizable as a Tahoe, and really, I find very little faults with this thing other than the fact that the 5.3 is still a little bit too sluggish for me, although the new 10-speed is great. I really want to try this thing out with the diesel inline 6, and of course, the 6.2 V8 is probably a really good choice as well. But really, when it comes down to the Tahoe, choosing it over its competitors is a really simple proposition because, I mean, GM consistently sells over 100,000 of these every year. It outsells the Expedition by about 15,000 units, and really, GM is going to continue that lead with this all-new version because right now, it's a hot car. If you're wanting to get one of these at a Chevy dealership, I'm told that your people are paying close to or over sticker price on one of these because it is in such high demand. Now, with all that said, if you're looking to buy one of these Tahoes, it just went on sale earlier last month at a starting price of $49,000 even for the base LS model. Now, of course, the LS model is technically not available yet on the consumer site. So on the consumer site, Chevy says this thing starts at $53,800. That actually is the same price, if you can believe it, as the 2020 model. So for all this new technology, all the new features, the Tahoe starts at the same MSRP as last year's models, which is just absolutely insane. I'm wondering how Chevrolet was able to do that. Now, of course, this one here is the Z71 model. It's about $5,000 more expensive versus the LT version. So this one starts at just under $60,000, 59 grand. My tester has a lot of options on it that has ballooned the price to over 76 grand. Over 76 grand is a lot of money. I remember back in 2015, GMC sent me a Yukon Denali that was $75,000, which I thought was just ridiculous. To pay 76 grand for a Tahoe is insane. However, if you're gonna spec out a 2020 Tahoe or an Expedition, they're roughly around the same price. Although I will say, my tester missing adaptive cruise control and no cooled seats or a head-up display is really kind of an insult considering the price. Keep in mind, if you guys go for the high country trim, I spec'd out a fully loaded Tahoe to be over $84,000. So that's just kind of how expensive these SUVs have become. A Suburban, by the way, is going to cost you about $3,000 more. And if you're also comparing this to the Yukon, the Tahoe is about $4,000 less expensive than the Yukon. And of course, the most expensive Mac Daddy, the Cadillac Escalade, starts at around $85,000. So this is going to be the cheaper option, but you should know it's still not a cheap date. This is still one of the most expensive new SUVs you can buy, but it also is one of the best new three-row, large, full-size SUVs money can buy. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2021 Chevrolet Tahoe Z71. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.
do, we'll be there.
When I think of a large American luxury full-size SUV, the Cadillac Escalade is the name that lives in the spotlight. However, a lot of you may have forgotten that Lincoln was technically the first manufacturer to enter this segment with the Navigator a year before the Escalade back in 1998. Now, 2 years ago, Lincoln completely redesigned the Navigator, moving it to a fourth generation. It rides on an all-new platform, and it finally gave it the luxury, the technology, and the presence that it needed to be taken seriously in the luxury space. So as you can see, this week, Lincoln has loaned me the latest 2020 Navigator, practically the same vehicle, but with additional standard safety equipment. With this black label model approaching nearly $100,000, it still represents one of the most expensive luxury SUVs you can buy. Now, there is an all-new Escalade just around the corner, which I haven't driven yet, but today the big question I want answered, does the 2020 Lincoln Navigator still represent the standard if you guys are looking for American luxury? That's what we're here to find out. So a couple years ago when I first drove the all-new fourth generation Navigator, I remember being completely blown away. Lincoln really showed the world what they could do, how they could do a luxury SUV when they put their minds to it, and of course when they put enough money into the development of this type of vehicle. So 2 years later, the Navigator continues to be very impressive, and for the most part it stays pretty much the same. Lincoln did make some additional safety tech features as standard this year, which is good because most luxury brands make you pay extra for all that driver assistance stuff. And this black label model that I'm driving represents the pinnacle of the Navigator lineup. This one here is nearly $100,000. That's right, nearly six figures for a Navigator. However, before you bark at that price, just know that this thing looks and feels every bit like it's worth six figures, especially when you first start looking at it from the outside. So 2 years ago, when I first saw the design of this all-new Navigator, I was torn on the overall look. 2 years later, I'm still kind of torn with it because there are certain parts about the design that I really appreciate about the Navigator. It's very big, it's very imposing. This one here is the fully loaded black label model, so it has basically all the bells and whistles. But there are times where I look at this thing and I think it looks a little bit too bulbous, a little like a whale from the front end. Now, let me know in the comments below what you think of the design. You can't deny that it still stands out in a good way. This one here is painted in a shade of burgundy velvet, which is not my favorite color choice. It kind of just makes it feel a little bit like an old person car in my opinion. But there are some nice intricate details here. If you guys love chrome, you can see the grille is very blingy. You got all the chrome in the grille with the corporate Lincoln grille. These full LED headlights kind of have a two-level stack for the LED daytime running light, and then you have an LED turn signal down here, and then more chrome, and then you have an LED fog light down here. So at night, this thing looks really imposing. It also has really excellent headlights. So if you guys constantly drive at night, you want a vehicle that will shine up the road really well, this is the one that will do that for you. Now, just like the Ford Expedition, this is riding on the newest platform, and she's a big car. This one here isn't even the long version. There's a Navigator L, which is like 2 feet longer than this one, but this one stretches at 210 inches long. This is a good 6 inches longer than something like the Cadillac Escalade, the current one. The new one is roughly the same size as this, but you can see Lincoln really wanted to make this thing really imposing. It still rides on a truck frame, but it has an independent suspension. The one thing it is missing, however, is an air suspension. You can get that on a lot of the competitors. I'm not sure why Lincoln decided not to do that. Now, of course, with these big SUVs, you gotta have these big rims, and the Navigator certainly satisfies that. You have 22-inch wheels on this black label model, riding on 285 width tires. I don't love the design of the wheels because there's so many damn spokes. I wouldn't want to be the person that has to clean these wheels, but I guess if you can afford a $100,000 SUV like this, you're not going to be the one that hand washes your car anyway. Now, as I said, very big vehicle. I'm only 5'7", but as you can see, it towers over me because this is a full-size SUV based on a truck frame, so make sure something like this will actually fit into your garage if you guys have a small garage or a small driveway. At the back, the design hasn't changed, as you guys know. It's got the signature Lincoln design elements here with the full-length, full LED taillights. It definitely makes this car stand out. I don't particularly love how Lincoln is kind of spelled out. I would have just preferred if they just put the badge there. A simpler, cleaner look would have been nicer in my opinion. And then down here, I'm surprised to see that Lincoln didn't include an actual exposed exhaust system. It's just kind of hidden underneath the rear bumper. I would have preferred them to do kind of like a dual outlet setup. It would have made this back end look a little bit more sporty. And then if you'd like, Lincoln offers two different ways you can open up the tailgate. You can open it up by just the glass portion, where if you push that button, the glass will lift up, which is nice if you don't want to open up the entire tailgate. Or if you open up from this side here, it does include a power lift gate. Now, obviously, the Navigator L is the one that you want if you guys actually have to carry 7 people and all of their stuff. However, the standard size one isn't bad. You're looking at around 18 cubic feet of space with the seats up. If you fold down everything, Lincoln says you should get close to 90 cubic feet of space. And remember, the L will definitely have around 30% more space. These seats are a power folding seat, which is nice. So you can just kind of push this button here, which allows the third row to fold flat. And remember, the Navigator has an independent rear suspension, so unlike the GM vehicles, which were just redesigned to get a fully independent suspension, you get a completely flat floor here when you fold down that third row. Now, just like the stunning concept car that they showed back in 2016, the production model literally looks like that concept car, just minus those gull wing doors that, you know, lifted up, which was kind of like the Falcon doors from the Model Y. This car continues to stand out. There are certain styling elements about it that I still haven't warmed up to. Like, for example, I don't love this burgundy, you know, reddish color on my Tester with these multiple spokes on the wheels. They're just going to be a pain in the ass to clean. But you can't deny the undeniable presence that this car gives you. It just looks expensive, it looks elegant, it looks also distinctly American, which helps it stand out in all of these sea of big, you know, 3-row large SUVs. And this is a real SUV. Remember, it's based off of a Ford F-150 platform. It has an independent rear suspension, of course, so it's way more refined than the first generation Navigator. And really, the interior is another area where Lincoln showed the world that they can build a world-class luxury car. This cabin doesn't feel at all like a Ford vehicle, and for 2020, it pretty much stays the same. But this Black Label model is really going to coddle a lot of people with its luxury and space. So obviously with these luxury SUVs, the interior is really where more people are going to be concerned with, and the Navigator will surprise a lot of people. I mean, just like 2 years ago, Ford really outdid themselves, or at least Lincoln really outdid themselves. Now, the one feature they did forget, for nearly $100,000, I'm surprised this car doesn't have soft closing doors. I mean, yes, the door sounds very solid when it shuts, but most vehicles in this segment offer a soft closing door, even as an option, so I think Lincoln needs to look into offering that. The new Aviator has that feature, so my guess is they will eventually update this car and include that stuff. Now, when you want to start the car up, you can hear it still has that same Ford chime, which I wish that Lincoln had gotten rid of that and put their own. But this rest of this cabin, you can see with this Black Label model, it has kind of like the light white interior in here, which looks good with the burgundy velvet on the outside. I don't love the exterior color, but I like the interior color a lot. These seats are the 30-way perfect position seats, which also offer a massaging function. They're heated and cooled, and you have 3-person memory on the driver's side. They're a pretty comfortable seat, but it did take me some time to actually adjust the seat in so many ways, because you can see you can adjust this bolster, you can make the thigh extender come out on both sides of your leg. The headrest is adjustable, so there's so many ways you can adjust it. It takes some time to find that comfortable driving position, but once you do, these seats really hold you in place very nicely. The rest of this cabin, you can see, hasn't changed. You have real leather stitching on the upper part of the dashboard here. You've got real metal trim, piano black plastic, chrome. You've got real wood, although I wish that Lincoln had gone with a matte finish open pore wood. I don't like the shiny look of the wood. It kind of makes it look fake. It would have just looked better if it was a low gloss sheen type of wood. The door panels here have that same kind of leather material. Lincoln puts the seat controls on the door like Mercedes does, and if you want to activate the massage, there's a button right here that you push, which basically turns on the massage, and you can also kind of control how you'd like the massage, the intensity of the massage, when you look at the screen over here. Now, looking at the rest of this cabin, the steering wheel, you can see, is a power tilt and telescoping design. It's also a heated wheel. The infotainment system here is a good size, although I'm surprised that Lincoln didn't kind of go with a more widescreen orientation. There's obviously room for it in the dash. My guess is this screen will probably end up being refreshed whenever they change this car, because if you look, the bezel is a little bit wide. I also don't like how there's a lot of unused real estate here. It's actually like a 10.25 inch screen, but it could be a 12-inch display if they just use the entire screen. So some of you may notice that. This is basically Ford's Sync 3, or it's Lincoln's Sync 3. You have your embedded GPS. This works pretty well. Lincoln and Ford have really been updating this over the years. So if you guys want to see my full in-depth review on how the system works, be sure to watch my review of the Lincoln Navigator from last year, because this hasn't really changed at all. When you put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's a full 360 camera, but look at the camera resolution. It actually went to like a smaller screen, and the resolution could be better. So these are kind of areas where I think Lincoln could improve on for this car, just to kind of continue to elevate themselves. Because remember, the new upcoming Escalade has a 38-inch curved OLED screen, which it's multiple screens, but it basically faces the driver, and that's kind of where the industry is going, especially when you're spending this kind of money. Now, my tester also has a really nice heads-up display, which is fairly wide. The Revel Ultima audio system in this car also sounds great. It's pretty comparable to the Burmester and Bang & Olufsen sound systems you get in a lot of other competing vehicles. You've got your climate control down here. Lincoln does this push-button piano key style transmission selector. There's a wireless phone charger down here with 2 USB ports, cup holders over here, and then your drive mode selector is over here. This car also has an automatic parallel parking feature, and if you want to adjust the drive mode, you can see in the instrument panel it shows you, a little cool graphic on the drive mode that you're in. And that's really the only cool thing about this screen, because you have a full 12-inch display here. But other than just changing the drive mode, this screen is not customizable, which I think Lincoln needs to adjust that, because I don't like the way the screen looks. It kind of looks a little basic. I can't even put like the GPS in this screen like you can in some competitors. So kind of keep that in mind. Lincoln needs to do something to make this look and feel a little bit more high-tech and upscale. Now above me, there is this massive panoramic sunroof. As you can see, it goes back into the second row. It has a power sunshade. It has this very nice mouse fur-like material on the roof panel. And then over here, when you open this up, you can see there's a fairly large center console over here, which is very deep, which is nice. But the one thing that I don't like, for example, if you look at this, I kind of wish that it opened up separately. Like, what if I wanted to open up this console, but there's somebody's elbow here? Some other manufacturers allow kind of like a split layout. Lincoln, as you can see, only basically does it in one piece. So that's kind of a detail I think they should have addressed. The glove compartment over here, you can see, it's a little bit on the small size, but it's damped and it's lined with felt. So obviously this cabin is still very nice. Still has some elements in here, like I see some Ford switchgear in here, but everything else about it is very high quality. It will really impress a lot of you if you haven't been in a modern Lincoln interior. Now for you shorter drivers out there, Lincoln also offers this really nifty power deploying running board. So as soon as I open up the door, you can see it comes out and then it tucks away when when the vehicle's doors are shut to help make the car a little bit more aerodynamic. Now getting back into the second row, you'll notice that the space back here is just insane. I mean, the legroom is practically around 39 inches. It's basically what you're gonna get in the front seats. And you can see this one with the captain's chairs allows for this very large pass-through to get into the third row. The seats themselves, you can see they also slide forward and back, and they also have a recline feature, which is nice. But the one thing this car is missing back here, it's got heated back seats, but no cooled seats. Funny for $100,000, because I can get a Kia Telluride or a Hyundai Palisade with cooled second row seats. It looks like there's a button here for it, but this one is the fully loaded black label model. So my guess is Lincoln doesn't offer cooled seats in the second row, which is a little bit annoying. Now getting back into the third row, you can obviously kind of get back here through this center area here, or you can also pull this lever here. You can see the seat slides forward to reveal a good amount of space. Now the beauty about the Navigator is because of that independent rear suspension, there is a crap ton of space here in this third row. Now this is with the seat all the way back. I'm 5'7". I could sit back here on a longer trip, like an hour or 2 hour long trip. And the seat, as you can see, is pretty high off the ground, so my knees aren't in my face. The leather also feels really high quality. The vehicle is wide enough to where you could fit 3 across back here. And there are rear seat air vents. You have a power adjust reclining back seat back here, which is very nice. So really the Navigator was one of the first vehicles to give us a usable third row. But remember, the new Escalade is coming out later this year, and that will also have a lot more space in the back seat in the third row area. So the Lincoln won't be the only one in town if you guys are looking for a usable third row for adults. So I think my favorite feature of the Black Label model has to be these 30-way perfect position seats. Now I will say that it takes a little bit of time to get comfortable in these things because there's so many ways you can adjust the car. It's a little overwhelming. But once you finally get it right, I'm sitting here just kind of being soothed by driving this car. I'm also getting a massage, which is lovely. And you also have this commanding view of the road, and when you put your foot down, Oh yeah, this thing really hauls, even though she's a big girl. So underneath the massive hood of the Navigator, those of you who are expecting to find a V8 might be slightly disappointed. Lincoln replaced the V8 a few years ago with this twin turbocharged V6. Now this latest generation is the same one that you find in the Ford Raptor. It's a 3.5 liter twin turbo EcoBoost V6, and it's in its highest spec here. It makes 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers are actually still more versus the big block 6.2 that you get in the Escalade. Although the Escalade also has a diesel engine option, this is the only engine which is a great engine, so we'll get onto the road later and we'll talk about how it drives. It all goes out through a Ford and GM co-developed 10-speed automatic transmission. It's a very quick shifting transmission, and as this one sits, it'll tow a maximum of around 9,000 pounds, and fuel economy is rated at 16 in the city, 22 on the highway. This Navigator is pretty heavy, although they added more aluminum this year. It weighs close to 6,000 pounds, even more obviously if you're going to be carrying 7 people in this thing. So even though the Navigator only offers one engine choice, it is a good engine. It's the Raptor's, twin turbo V6 with over 500 pound-feet of torque. It is just insane. It still has more torque and more power than what you can get in the top dog Escalade. Now, of course, the Escalade has always been the long rival to the Navigator. I haven't driven the 2021 model as of this filming yet, which I'm hoping to drive later this fall. Cadillac now offers that diesel inline 6. But I gotta say, this Navigator is still quite lovely to drive. Yeah, this thing weighs like 5,800 pounds, somewhere around there, and it gets to 60 in under 6 seconds. It feels like a 5.5 second car. And it just has so much power. It has actually a pretty decent noise as well. I'm pretty impressed with the noise. Lincoln has also been slowly refining the 10-speed automatic in this car. I'm noticing that it shifts really quickly. It shifts very smoothly. It's well matched to the power band of this engine. It just feels so effortless. When I put my foot down here, you can see just a little bit of pressure and it downshifts a couple of gears. The car surges forward with all this torque. Very nice noise, which the noise is slightly artificial, but that's okay because it sounds very deep, very powerful. Oh, I love driving this thing. It every bit feels as nice as the last BMW X7, as the Mercedes GLS, and that's very big, stiff competition from the Germans. But Lincoln proves that the American companies can compete head-on with the Germans. And it's just incredibly impressive what they were able to do with the Navigator. Now, just driving the car normally around town, it is a big car, but it doesn't feel quite as big as you'd expect it to, because it has a very comfortable controlled ride. It has all the latest driver assistance tech as standard: automatic emergency braking, lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, Ford's Co-Pilot 360, which is Lincoln's version of it, whatnot. Visibility is also very good. You have these big side mirrors, good view out of the front, out of the back, because this car has a more traditional box shape. The seats are also very comfortable once I get them set up for the way that I prefer them to feel for me. This thing is fast. Now, it's not a sporty handling vehicle. That's not the mission of the Navigator, obviously, but it will hold its own. And when you put it into its Excite mode, or sport mode is what Lincoln calls it, Excite, the steering gets relatively heavy. The transmission gets more responsive. I don't really notice a change in the ride quality. That's the one thing about this car that I'm surprised it doesn't have, is an adjustable air suspension. Most competitors actually offer that, but I'd probably argue that you don't really need it. It has adaptive dampers and a leveling suspension, but no actual air suspension, which some of you may prefer that. It's a little bit less complex. But I know that the Cadillac Escalade will offer that, so I'm trying to see if maybe that car will be a little bit smoother in the ride quality. The Cadillac will also have that 38-inch OLED curved screens. That's right, I said screens, which will look more impressive. That's the one thing about this car. The head unit here, while it does look nice, I don't like how the bezel is very thick. There's also a lot of unused black plastic real estate that I think Lincoln should have gone with a widescreen look. And the fully digital display here is nice, but it's a very basic looking digital display that you can't really customize all that much. I mean, switch between the drive modes here and it shows you this cool little graphic on, whatever drive mode you're changing it to. But every gauge, looks pretty much the same. You have like a very dark looking tack and speedo, very traditional. You can't actually customize it to look a little bit more exciting, I guess. It's just a little bit bland. So I hope that Lincoln will address that, make the graphics look a little cooler. There's a very nice large heads-up display in this car, which you'll find a lot of additional information in that little area there. And really, I find very little faults with this car. This is the perfect car that I'd want to take on a long road trip, that I'd want to carry, 6 or 7 people in, because you can't seat up to 8 in this car. Although my tester here with the captain's chairs only seats 7. It just really shows you how impressive Lincoln is when they really put their mind to it. And that's precisely why I love the Aviator as well, because it captures the flagship Navigator in a smaller package. But I would argue that this isn't all that difficult to drive. It's just kind of difficult to fit this thing into your small garage. Or if you guys live in like an urban area, I would recommend going for the Aviator. Now, in terms of fuel economy, I've been averaging around 14 mpg, which is not great. But I can't help but dip into the power of this thing. You need to put premium in it, obviously. But it's going to be a really fun fight when the new Escalade comes out, because Lincoln they set the bar high, very high 2 years ago, and it continues to be one of the top luxury SUVs in the segment. Despite the fact that, Lincoln only managed to sell around 18,000 last year, the Escalade actually outsells this thing 2 to 1. So go figure. So even though this current generation Navigator is 2 years old now, it still represents one of the best large luxury SUVs that money can buy. As you guys saw, the interior is just hugely spacious. It has most of the latest tech that you want. It's got very comfortable seats. It's really easy to drive, just a little bit big. It has plenty of power from its turbocharged V6 engine. It rides really well, although there are a couple of things about the Navigator that I'm wondering if Lincoln will update. I'm surprised it doesn't have an air suspension as an option. I'm surprised it doesn't have soft closing doors. And I also think that the interior, there's a couple of Ford switchgear in there, including the Ford chime, that I think Lincoln could probably get rid of, which they may end up doing when they refresh this car. Remember, Lincoln's own Aviator, which is a very impressive luxury SUV, offers most of the luxuries that you get in the Navigator, but in a much more smaller, more maneuverable package. But there's no denying, if you guys need to tow heavy loads, if you need to carry 7 or 8 people and all of their junk, the Navigator still represents one of the best options you can pick out there. Now, speaking of which, let's talk about the pricing of this vehicle, because Lincoln last year sold around 18,000 of these vehicles. Surprisingly, the Escalade outsold it 2 to 1, which really shocked me. The Navigator starts at around $76,000 for a base model. This fully loaded black label is around $98,000, so just shy of $100,000. If you guys want for the L model, which is 2 feet longer, that will easily push the price over $100,000. And really, the entire package of the car feels that way. It's just a lot of money for a Lincoln. It's sticker shock, but you have to remember, with all the technology, all the space, this new platform, how refined the car is, it very much feels like it's worth that much money. But just keep in mind, there's an all-new version of the Escalade. There's the BMW X7, there's the Mercedes GLS. So there's a lot of choices out there. But if you really want classic American luxury, Navigator still represents one of the best options out there. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2020 Lincoln Navigator. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.
Get a total bonus of $2,000 on a new 2020 Tacoma Special Edition. Toyota, let's go places.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today on this bright and sunny day, I've gotten my hands on one of the highly anticipated luxury SUVs to come to market later this year. That's right, this big green beauty right behind me that looks like a Bentley is the 2021 Genesis GV80 SUV, the company's first ever crossover vehicle. Now, in today's video, I'm not going to be able to drive this car just yet because this one here behind me is an early pre-production model and it doesn't actually have tags on it. I will be driving the GV80 and the G80, the 2021 G80, later in the fall, so stay tuned, of course, for that video. But in this video, I'm going to go over all the reasons why the 2021 GV80 is one of the most impressive new luxury SUVs and why you should wait for it. So the last time I saw this thing in person, I was in Miami Beach earlier this year. Genesis unveiled the car at this private venue. Unfortunately, it was very dark because it was at night, and the one that I had to film was parked on the street on Miami Beach with the road not being closed. So it was a little difficult to see and show just how beautiful the car is. But today, obviously, Genesis has sent me the car for the next 6 hours today. And I have to say, seeing it in person here in my local areas, this thing has some presence to it. It looks exactly, to me, like a better Bentley Bentayga. You can see, looking at the design of the GV80, this one here is the fully loaded Prestige model with the 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But as you can see, the Genesis new corporate styling here, this grille, is certainly big, bold, it's glitzy, it's glamorous. It really fits the styling of this car. I just love the way this looks. I love the way the Bentley, or the Genesis logo looks a lot like a Bentley or an Aston Martin. It's just very classy and elegant. All Genesis GV80 models will come standard with the company's quad beam, full LED headlights. You can see it has 4 individual LED diodes. It has an LED daytime running light, LED turn signals, no fog lights on these models, but you can see Genesis has done a really good job with updating the styling and finding their own design language. You can see it's got a front camera system here. The radar sensor for the adaptive cruise control has been moved down there. It's much more fleshly integrated, which is a huge improvement over, of course, the earlier Genesis models. Now, the GV80 is a mid-size crossover designed to compete with something like the Audi Q7, the BMW X5, the Mercedes-Benz GLE, and you can also compare this to an Acura MDX or Lexus RX. This Prestige model comes with 22-inch wheels. That's right, 22-inch wheels wrapped in 265 wide tires. These wheels are some of my favorite production wheels that I've seen so far. I love the clean 5-spoke design. And being a mid-size model, Genesis says that the wheelbase on this car is around 116 inches long and it stretches around 195 inches long. So this is right smack in the middle of mid-size proportions, about the same size as, of course, the company's G80 sedan. I just love the way this thing looks. I think it has excellent proportions. It has really clean lines. It looks elegant. It looks classy. This is really going to set the market on fire when it goes on sale later this year. Now, of course, the rear has taillights that kind of mimic what you get in the front with the quad beams. These are full LED taillights. You have the Genesis logo spelled out on the back. There's no wing emblem back here. And then, of course, there's also a very subtle all-wheel drive badge at the back. The exhaust tips you can see at the bottom are nicely integrated. They also kind of match the way the grille looks. They call that the Genesis Crest grille. Everything back here just has a really classy, elegant look to it. Now, of course, this has a power liftgate. To open that up, you actually have to push this button over here. But once you open up the tailgate, you can see I don't have cargo figures just yet, but this particular one here has a 3rd row. It's optional, of course. It's like a $800 option if you want that. It is a power folding 3rd row where you can basically push this button right here, and the 3rd row itself will fold flat. Now, looking at the class of vehicle, I would estimate that the GV80 probably has around 40 cubic feet of space with 3rd row seat down, maybe around 15 with it up. If you fold down everything, most vehicles in this segment have roughly around 75 to 85 cubic feet of space, and the GV80 certainly looks like no exception. So underneath that big long hood, you're probably wondering what's powering the new GV80. Well, when this thing goes on sale, Genesis will launch it with 2 engines. The base engine will be a 2.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. That's the same motor that we see in the Sonata N-Line. This motor here, however, is a new Genesis-specific engine. It's a 3.5-liter twin-turbocharged V6, and in this car it makes 375 horsepower and 391 pound-feet of torque. That's about 75 more ponies than what you get in the four-cylinder, which makes a nice even 300. This should be just enough power to move this SUV. Of course, we don't have weight yet, we don't have fuel economy yet. It all goes out through an 8-speed torque converter automatic with either your choice of rear-wheel drive, that's right, this is a rear drive platform, or all-wheel drive like my Tester, which is like a $2,500 upcharge on top of additional options. Now, of course, like I said before, we don't have performance figures yet, and I'm not able to drive this car just yet either, but I'll let you guys start it up when we go into the interior part. You can hear this engine. This is going to be an engine that you'll find in other Genesis products, and there's rumors that this will also show up in the refreshed 2021 Kia Stinger. So obviously the exterior of the GV80 really impressed me when I first saw this thing. It's even more beautiful out in the sun, but the interior is another area where Genesis is absolutely killing it, and this generation of vehicles is introducing an all-new interior for them. And as you can see, the green exterior is complemented by this two-tone brown interior, brown and black interior of my Tester. It has really premium materials like metal, real wood, lots of leather stitching, and the seats are absolutely phenomenal. This has like a diamond quilted material. They are heated and cooled, and the front seats offer a pneumatic massage feature that's part of the Prestige package. So the seats themselves, I would put them against anything you can get from all the Germans, all the Japanese. They are really plush, comfortable seats. The rest of this interior, you can see, just looks very modern, very upscale. I didn't really like this Genesis steering wheel when I first saw it, but seeing it here, I guess I could get used to it. It's a really nice, comfortable place to rest your hand there when you're driving this thing. Now, the Prestige model, or on this trim, gives you soft closed doors. So all I have to do is just kind of tap the door and it'll shut for me automatically. Or let's hear the door slam sound. Again, it didn't actually shut all the way there, but the soft close feature is nice. The door has a nice solid sounding thunk. So again, really impressive quality, initial quality. This is an all new platform like I mentioned before. Now, this key fob you can see is a new Genesis specific key. This car does have that Smart Park feature that Hyundai introduced on the Sonata. So you can make the car pull out of a parking spot or come or back into a parking spot. It also has remote start. You can open up the tailgate area. It's a nice looking key. It's a really good size. It has this really nice soft rubberized material and it feels very sturdy and high quality. It's not terribly large. The push to start button is over here. And you can hear, just like other luxury cars, this has a very soft, quiet, very just elegant feel, even at startup with this car. And that's important when you're looking at something like this. The drive mode selector, or when you switch over the drive modes, you can see this car kind of gives you a different look to the gauges. These, by the way, are the three-dimensional gauges. You can turn that on and off. You can really see how cool the 3D effect looks. I think this is definitely a first in the industry. I've never seen something like this before, so I think that's very cool. It's in sport mode right now. Let's take a listen to the engine. Obviously, this isn't supposed to be a sport SUV or anything like that, but it's a very smooth SUV, and Genesis does give you that augmented or that sound enhancer system through the speakers. Now, obviously, I can't show you how it drives yet because I can't drive this on the road, but I'm looking forward to, because it's already giving me really great first impressions. Now, looking at the rest of this cabin, you can see a lot of real stitching is all over the dash. Everywhere the dash is completely stitched. There's a massive 14.5, that's right, a 14.5-inch tablet-style screen that sticks right out of the dash. That is also a touchscreen. It has the latest version of the Genesis infotainment system. It's basically an updated Hyundai system. The leather stitching continues over here onto the door panels, where you have real metal here for the door handles. You have that matte finish wood that you get with the advanced package. You have two-person memory seats. You have all these new controls and knobs and buttons here. You can see it has a really high-quality tactile feel. The windows are one touch for all four, which I didn't expect anything less. You have power folding mirrors, of course. All these buttons are trimmed in metal. You have some real nice leather down here on the door panels. It's also soft touch injection molded plastic material down here. This car also has the Lexicon stereo system, which I would put it up against any of the Bang & Olufsen, Mark Levinson, Bowers & Wilkins, Burmester sound systems that you get in all of its European competitors. The steering wheel is power tilt and telescoping. That's something that Volvo could learn a thing or two from, since they don't offer that on the XC90, which I would also compare this thing to an XC90 as well. And I just think this car's like overall presence performance is just beautiful. I'm really impressed. You can see when I cycle through pushing this button over here, you can also turn on the automatic, adaptive lane keep assist, whatnot. You can really see the three-dimensional effect. I think it looks cool. I don't love how the tach is kind of going counterclockwise. It's kind of driving me crazy. I wish it would turn the other way. But that's a really interesting design element. Now, obviously, I want to talk about the infotainment system in this car because you can use it like a touchscreen. Like I said, this is pretty similar to the last Hyundai Sonata that I drove, which had a 12 or 10.25 inch screen. This is just 4 inches larger. This is what the home screen looks like. You can see this is the Genesis GPS system in this car, which is pretty similar to the ones you see in other Hyundai products, but it has been updated slightly, and I think the system is very quick to respond. This is a little bit of a far reach. Now, if this is too far for you, you can use this Genesis controller right here, which this is not like a touchpad or anything like that. It's a wheel that you scroll around, and you can also kind of push these and push the enter button when you actually want to select something. There's also some hard shortcut buttons. There's a volume knob and a tuning knob. Over here, it's a dial actually, which is really all high quality. I love the crystal-like shifter. The glass shifter that you get here, when you twist it all the way to the left, it goes to reverse, and you can see there's a full 360 camera. It looks fantastic. It has very excellent resolution. It also takes up almost the entire screen, so I love that. When I put it into drive, you can see it gives you the front camera system with parking sensors. This is all very impressive. It's what I expect in something like this. So the Japanese really have something to do to catch up. Now, let's go to the CarPlay here. You can see very massive screen. Now, you can't actually take up the entire screen here, but you don't really need to because this in itself is probably already 12 inches, and I think that's pretty impressive. Let's pull up the Waze here. You can see very, very nice integration here. Love the big screen. This is just super cool. Like, I love everything about this car with the way the screen looks. I think this is a really, really great system, and I'm really impressed that Genesis is putting an infotainment system like this in this vehicle. It takes a little bit of a learning curve, but I think once you figure it out, you've been in other Hyundai products, it's not bad for sure. Now, of course, it does have those features like the sounds of nature, where it'll play, all these nature sounds to kind of create like a nice calming effect in the cabin. I've seen that before, of course, in the Sonata. You can hear the stereo system in this car sounds pretty good. If you go into the settings in this vehicle, you can go to setup, you can change all your different settings here, your drive mode settings, your driver assistance stuff. You can also mess with the ambient interior lighting in here, which is cool. Genesis offers several different colors to choose from with interior lighting, and of course that's all very important when you're looking at a vehicle like this. That's something that a lot of people like to customize, and you can also set a custom color if you guys don't like any of the preset colors here. I imagine this interior looks beautiful at night. Wish I could show you, but they're literally picking up the car in 2 hours, so I won't be able to do that. You can see the rest of this cabin. The dual zone climate control is down here, where you've got a little screen here in the climate control, which is definitely cool. You have the cooled seats over here, which is nice. You have 2 level heated steering wheel. I like this beautiful screen here. It looks great. You have a wireless phone charger down here, 2 USB charging points. You can see there's that Genesis controller, the shifter, the drive mode selectors over here. You can also activate the 4-wheel drive lock system and the downhill assist control. When you switch the drive modes, you can see there's like several different modes: sport, comfort, eco, snow, and then of course there's a custom mode. So this is all very, very impressive. I'm really looking forward to actually driving this car when it does go on sale. Opening up this area, you can see it's a big center stack right here, which is fairly nice. You can see Genesis also gives you these cool buttons where I can move the seat forward and back if I'd like, where I don't have to stretch my arm over there. And this is actually a pretty wide vehicle. I'm impressed with how far away the actual passenger side is from me. This feels roomier than other vehicles like the Lexus RX and the Acura MDX. Now, of course, this is a mid-size family SUV, so you're probably wondering, how's the space in the second row? Well, as you can see, it is pretty big. At initial glance, when I first open up the door, I don't have the specific legroom figures yet, but I'd say this is probably around almost 40 inches of legroom. Those seats also recline. They slide forward and back. They have a little feature here where I can push this button here, and it slides the seat forward here to get into the third row of this vehicle, which I'll do that in just a moment. But I think that's a really great upscale feature, and the seats themselves have the same quilted diamond stitching. These are also heated and cooled in the second row. That's part of the Prestige package that my tester has. Now, getting back here, you can see legroom is pretty good, actually. I'm really impressed. Let me shut the door. This also has a soft closing feature, which is definitely nice. You also have power rear sunshades back here, which is fantastic. I love that. And then above me, you can see there is a panoramic sunroof that this particular one has. When you open this up, you can see It's not a continuous one piece. There is a bar here that kind of splits the two apart. And you can see once I did that, I opened up the sunroof here. You also have a nice Alcantara headliner here, which is really great. Love the natural light that comes in. It brightens up an otherwise dark cabin. Now getting back here, this is the seat all the way back. I can also slide it forward and kind of basically shove my knees into the front seats. That gives third row seat passengers a little bit more legroom if you'd like. You can see back here, you've got your own set of climate controls. You've got cooled seats, heated seats, which is again part of that prestige package. You have two USB ports, actual 150 watt household power outlet, which is nice. You have two map pockets, like I said, and you have all the same leather stitching, metal speakers down here. It's even soft touch down here in this lower area, so I wasn't expecting something so upscale. When I fold this down, you can see just a standard armrest. Genesis also gives you two cup holders, so they're kind of found in the armrest here. So overall, the second row is super nice. I'm not entirely sure if Genesis is going to offer captain's chairs. I kind of like how they don't, because it does give this thing the 7-passenger seating, which if you guys had captain's chairs, it would limit that to 6. Now I wanted to show you guys the third row because I didn't get a chance to actually sit in it when I first saw this car in Miami. Now, as I said before, you can push this button right here and the seat kind of folds forward and slides out of the way to give you some space to get back into the third row. And as you can see, the space is definitely not what I would say plentiful. I mean, in this class, like the Lexus RX 350L, which is even smaller than this, or the Acura MDX, this is probably pretty competitive. But let me get back here and show you guys what it's like. Now, okay, so let me readjust the camera here. I am only 5'7", guys, so keep in mind I'm not the tallest person. My hair is touching the ceiling of this vehicle, and again, I'm not very tall. My knees, as you can see, are kind of hitting the back of this. Now you can move this seat forward, like I said before, but it will eat into the space. But I'd probably say this is pretty comparable to the last Volvo XC90 or Acura MDX or Audi Q7 that I last sat in. So again, this is not a big SUV that can carry, you know, full-size adults in the third row, but for children to work in a pinch, this is probably something that should suffice. You can also kind of find different things back here, like your own rear seat vents. There's some also premium materials back here, although this is all kind of hard touch plastic, but I like how the controls are lined in aluminum or metal. And then there's a nice little storage cubby on this side here with another cup holder, more of those vents and whatnot. So this is so far not a really bad place to spend time, so you can actually fit, you know, I'd say somebody of my height or shorter in the third row. So obviously, without being able to drive the new GV80, it's really hard for me to say just how impressive this car is. But I will say, just spending a couple hours with it, playing around with the infotainment system, trying out the second and third rows, sitting in those comfortable seats, seeing this thing in person, I have no doubt that the new GV80 is one of the most impressive new luxury SUVs, and it goes on sale in the fall, so you only have to wait a couple more months. Now, speaking of which, Genesis has always been pretty good about offering a ton of value on a lot of their products, and the new GV80 is no exception. This thing starts at $48,900 plus destination. That makes it roughly around $5,000 less expensive than a BMW X5, a Mercedes-Benz GLE, and Audi Q7. It does make the GV80 around $4,000 more expensive than a Lexus RX and an Acura MDX. Now, I would argue that this is a far more impressive vehicle on paper, and when you start, you know, messing around with the controls versus the Japanese competitors, and really this is going to put the Japanese on edge because there's a new MDX and RX coming out soon, and this easily rivals the best that I've driven from Audi, from BMW, and from Mercedes, but at a far less expensive price tag. Now, speaking of which, this one here, the fully loaded V6 with all-wheel drive in the Prestige package, stickers for a lot more, fully loaded, this one's around $72,000, which is about $8,000 more than the last Lexus RX 350L that I drove. I would easily pay that for something like this, and I imagine those of you who want one of these are probably going to be paying close to sticker. Genesis says they have roughly 14,500 reservations for this car when it goes on sale, so if you guys want one, rush on over to your local Genesis dealer, because this thing is definitely going to be a hot car. It looks even better than the Bentley Bentayga. It has a lot of presence to it, and it's of course going to come with one of the best warranties in the business and their 3-year concierge service where you don't even have to go to the dealer. Genesis will come to your house and do everything for you whenever this car needs service. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2021 Genesis GV80. Be sure to come back in the fall when I actually am able to drive this thing. I can give you my full driving impressions, but if you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.
Get a total bonus of $2,000